All right. Hello. Good evening, everyone out there in streaming land. We are streaming live on Facebook, LinkedIn, and looks like X, formerly known as Twitter. Um, Hello, everyone, on this January 5th. Just want to let everyone know that we are going to be at the Florida Trucking Show, February 24th and 25th in Fort Lauderdale. We'll be at booth 910-910. So mark that down on your calendars. If you are in Florida, we will be there. February 24th and 25th. We'll be giving away a bunch of stuff like usual. So if you're looking for stickers for your truck, we should have big stickers. I placed an order for the large stickers, so you should be able to get those big stickers too. If you're interested in those for your truck, we'll have those. We'll also have the small ones too. I want to make an announcement here to let everyone know as well that our leasing division is open as of December 28th. If you're an owner operator and you're looking to lease your truck onto someone or a company or an organization, you could now lease onto the National Owner Operators Association. So you can inquire about that on our website, www.tnooa.com. I will put that on the screen here. Boom. www.tnooa.com. If you're looking for a company to lease your truck onto, contact us there, tnooa.com. Competitive leasing options for personalized dispatcher services, member-only load board access, nationwide dedicated freight from reputable shippers, and trusted relationships as well. We have a bunch of different services at the association. I've been getting so many phone calls from people inquiring about our services at the association. We've got a bunch of different services at the association. So please check out the website if you're interested in anything like that. One other thing I want to point out here. I've been getting a lot of inquiries about breakdowns, help with breakdowns and, roadside assistance and stuff like that. This is one of the areas where we have a bunch of different affiliates that we work with that provide 24/7 roadside assistance. Don't wait until your truck breaks down to contact us and ask us for help. That is the point of the association. If you're a member, you have access to 24/7 roadside assistance. Sign up with them when you join the association. That way you have it when your truck breaks down. If you've been doing this for any considerable amount of time, I know many people are new, but if you've been doing this for any considerable amount of time, you're going to have a breakdown. That's just how this business works. So sign up for the roadside assistance at the association. It's very cheap and it's worth it, and they are nationwide. So yeah, sign up for that. Greetings, sir or ma'am. All right, Iowa representing. Who is that? Let me just check here. Sorry, I moved my screens around, so it's going to be a little, I got to look up to see who that is. Mitchell and Isabel. What's up, people? Wallace, how are you? How is the how are the shirts, sweaters, hats, scullies, stickers, and everything else going? That is our the person who is in charge of printing all of our swag and developing all of our swag and our logos and all of that other stuff. So what's up? I see he's watching. Maybe one day you can sign in and join us on the show. So yeah, that's that. Let's see here. Where else? What is it? If you're interested in fuel cards, that's another thing we have available at the National Owner Operators Association. We have our own fuel card. Comes with many benefits. So if you're interested in a fuel card, I personally think the National Owner Operators Association fuel card is the best in the business, but hey, that's just me. If you know anything about me, if you've been following me and what we've been doing in this group for the last couple of years, because we've been around for a couple of years now, you will know that I do not play games with vendors or anyone who does business with truckers. I'm very hard on all of these people, and I demand service. So our fuel card is the best. We did not have to demand much from the people that provide the National Owner Operators Association fuel card because they are top notch in the first place. So if you're interested in a fuel card, check us out at www.tnooa.com or look in the group. The information is in the group if you're looking for a fuel card. Second here. Someone's coming in. We will wait and see what happens. Factoring. We have factoring at the National Owner Operators Association. Once again, top notch. If you're interested in factoring, check us out. Compliance. We do compliance. We have compliance services. Hey, Jamie, how are you?
What's up, Mike?
Hey, life is great. Everything is everything. Hey, Jennifer, how are you?
Too good.
Great. Good. Compliance. We handle compliance. If you have an issue with compliance, we do that as well. Dispatching. This is something that I got contacted about this week. It appears that people do not know that we have a full dispatching office at the National Owner Operators Association. So if you're looking for a qualified background check dispatcher who speaks English and knows what they're doing, and you're in need of a dispatcher, you can contact us and we can help you out with that because we have a full dispatching department. Carrier services. Jamie Anderson is the president of our carrier division. We have a full carrier division. I help run the carrier division as well, and I believe that I do a good job at it. But in case I don't, Jamie is here as well. So we handle the carrier division. If you're looking to lease your truck on, as I said before, and you're an owner operator and you're not happy with who you're currently leased on to, you can lease on to the National Owner Operators Association's authority, and you can run under us at a reasonable rate, low cost, and you get all of our services with that. I personally think you get a lot of bells and whistles, but hey, I'm partial. So you can check that out at the association as well. Any type of consulting. We do have one of the departments that we consult for that I get questions about is household goods. I spent the beginning of my career in household goods. I come from household goods. Household goods is a lot different than property, and in my opinion is better than property. Everything I have came from household goods. All of the gray hairs I have on my head, as you can see, they're considerable, has come from property. I do consulting on household goods. So if you're interested in getting into household goods, we do consult and help you get into it. I can tell you before you even contact me, it is not like property. You don't just pay a couple of $100 and get your authority. They will contact you, and they will background check you, and they will interview you. So it's a totally different world from property. So be ready if that's what you're interested in. If you're interested in a trailer or any type of equipment, flatbed, reefer, dry van, any type of trailer, we do provide that at the National Owner Operators Association. We have nationwide trailer availability. So if you're interested in any type of trailer, we do provide that. I already spoke about roadside assistance. Something I think a lot of people don't know, and I understand why, but we do have a full parts department at the National Owner Operators Association. You can get discounts on parts. So if you're interested in parts for your rig or your trailer, you can contact us on that. Jamie, I'm just going to run through this real quick. No one was here, so I needed to cover some time. Really quick, I'm almost done. Right, parts. If you're interested in parts, we do have them, and we can provide them to you very quickly. We do business loans here. Our business loan department is available at our website. So if you're in need of a business loan, or if you'd like to explore getting a business loan, this is no joke. They are serious. I do know that they can provide up to $10,000 cash very quickly. You can inquire about that on our website. Once again, it's at the bottom of the screen, tnooa.com. The approval process is not that, arduous, if I said that correctly. But you can apply for a business loan at our website. Everyone knows that we do have a very large insurance division. We have multiple different departments at our insurance division, depending on where you are in the business and what kind of coverage you're looking for. We have our insurance division that we've always had, so you can always inquire about that. We also have a new insurance program that is available at the association as well at this time, that we just rolled out at the beginning of the year. We're very happy with this program, and some people have already signed up for it. I think we've already signed up a bunch of people for it. As a matter of fact, I'm sure I got the email yesterday that some people have already signed up for it. So, and look, if you're looking to cut down your insurance costs, everyone knows, it's no secret that I personally can't stand insurance or the way it is done in this industry, and we created this program to combat the type of, in my opinion, fraud that is rampant in the commercial insurance industry. So if you're in need of an insurance policy or you're about to renew, check out our insurance programs at the association. Equipment financing and leasing. We have joined forces with a particular nationwide company to actually sell trucks. So we will be rolling that program out very shortly. So if you're in the market for a new truck, we will help you locate that and make a deal on that truck. These trucks are all checked out. They are top notch and come with extended warranties, and so we can definitely help you with that if that's something that you're interested in. And of course, lastly is our advocacy division. Everyone knows that we do advocacy in Washington. We're very active in Washington. We have an office in Washington. Address is available and information is available also on our website. We're going to be working on many different issues that down in Washington with our lobbyists. We have our own lobbyists here at the association, which your dues pay for. That is where your money goes. I know a lot of people have been very curious about that, but that is where your money goes, back to you, to fighting for you in Washington. So yes, these are just a small fraction of the services that we have available at the association that you can get more information on at this website here, www.tnooa.com. And good evening, everyone. Hey, Christopher, how are you? I saw you left me hanging, so I decided to just say F you and start the show without you, but I'm glad you could be here. So.
Yeah, sorry about that. I was trying to book a load when you started it.
Did you get the load?
No, it wasn't going to work out. Time wise.
Mr. Anderson, are you frozen or are you just posing like that?
He's froze.
He's frozen. Miss Cressman.
Sir, present.
What's up, Jennifer? How are you?
Man, I'm right up there on that top shelf, hoping I don't fall off and hit my head on the bottom shelf.
I am pulling for you, Jennifer. I am pulling for you.
I want you to know I've been a little stressed out. I've been dealing with troublemaker Chris Bennett lately. You know how he called me on all these loads that look a little shady and everything. So, he's been stressing me out.
I can tell you something about him. Yo, this guy knows how to cause problems, man. I'll tell you that right now. I don't know if it's Idaho, but him and the other Anderson, James Anderson, couple of troublemakers, man. I swear to you, just a couple of troublemakers.
$5 late fee.
So many problems. So it's just incredible. Love them to death, but they're both a couple of troublemakers, so I'm not surprised. What happened now?
Hey, we get results done, though.
You get results. What happened now?
Huh?
What kind of trouble he caused?
I mean, do you think they might be shady? Maybe they're double brokering. We might want to check these guys out. Call their moms, call their babysitters from when they were kids, and make sure they're legitimate people. That kind of thing.
That's a lot of work. Personally, I don't think we have that service yet, Jennifer. Do we?
I'm gonna have to start charging him fees for my diligence checks.
Hey, Jennifer, from the best of my knowledge here, and I'm not very knowledgeable, isn't that someone else's job? Like, is the DOT supposed to be doing that? You can correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like that is a Department of Transportation or FMCSA function.
And I would think a seasoned, experienced leading driver like Chris Bennett would know how to conduct his own due diligence without having to call Mama Jen to help brother out.
Yeah, I hear you, but from my understanding,
everybody held every once in a while, so I just continue to pat him on the back and sing lullabies to him while I help him out.
I totally understand, but you both can correct me. You both can correct me if I'm wrong, but from my understanding, that is the DOT's job, isn't it, to make sure that brokers and other individuals in the transportation supply chain are up to par and doing
they should be, but when you find so many that are not, you kind of got to do a double check on their job for them. You don't want to get caught in that trap.
I hear you, Chris. You want to respond to that?
I thought that's what we were trying to do, is get DOT and the FMCSA to actually do their job.
Hey, I can only try, bro. I don't know. I don't know how to make $1 billion an agency, a government agency. Hey, a government agency would, I don't know how many $1 billion budget to do their job, brother. I don't know why a Piker
Yeah.
organization, NOAA, it has
No,
to do
no,
that.
no, I'm saying that, and that's what we're actually fighting for. But in the meantime, we actually have to do it. So, and it's kind of a pain in the ass when you're running a company, driving the truck, and trying to do all of this. That's why I reach out to Jennifer.
It's fine. I'm
Right.
just busting his balls. I always appreciate
Yeah,
Chris.
I know.
He's just trying to do a good thing, and so I just
Well,
wanted to let him know. I'm teasing Chris. He's not bothering me. It doesn't bother me when people call and ask for help
She
at all.
thrives on
So
that.
I just wanted to
She
throw
loves
that
to
out
get
there.
on their ass.
I
Yeah.
hear you.
She thrives on that.
Go ahead,
She loves
Jamie.
to get on their ass.
I know.
said
I
Jennifer
know.
loves that
I
shit. She loves to get on their ass and rattle their cages.
hey, Jamie, I
No,
know.
I was in the
You tell the truth
back
here.
channel sharing the spaces with people.
Appreciate that, brother.
Reason why I was locked up, I was in the back channel sharing the space out to some people. See if they want to come in.
Appreciate that, brother.
You're kind of quiet.
Well, it's Friday. Let me go to some of these questions here. We've got a few questions here from some new people watching. SRO with DOT and FMCSA. Question. SRO with DOT
Not
and
with
FMCSA.
instead of.
Well, it kind of works with, and the reason we designed it that way is because there is precedence. There's a track record of it actually working in the financial industry. If you look at the blueprint that we created based on what's going on in the financial industry, you could see that there are decades, multiple decades of it being successful in the financial industry. In the finance sector, the SEC works in tandem with FINRA, which was the NASD, the National Association of Securities Dealers. Now, the FINRA is the SRO, the self-regulatory organization. It is an organization made up of industry stakeholders that funds itself. It is not a government agency. It funds itself and it regulates its own members. And it works in tandem with the government regulator, which is the SEC, which also works with the Department of Justice. Now, that is what we structured for the transportation industry, which is what is exactly needed, because the DOT and the FMCSA fail to regulate the transportation industry. And it's not even their fault. It's the way Congress structured it. When the Motor Carrier Act of 1980 was put into place, and over the last 4 decades with other administrations, this is where this industry is. So it is unregulated. Not from a safety standpoint, because I personally feel the FMCSA is very effective regulating safety. What they fail at regulating is the financial part of this industry. And once again, that is not their fault. That is not their mandate, right? Their mandate is safety. Their mandate is not forcing brokers to be transparent or to make sure brokers pay you what they're supposed to pay you. That is not those are not their marching orders. Their marching orders is to make sure that you don't kill someone on the highway. It is the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration. So that being said, an SRO is necessary. And an SRO would be the best way to tackle that, because there is no one better to regulate than yourself and your peers. So that is the answer to that. Can we book our own loads under your authority? Yes. In a nutshell, I don't think I need to expand on that. Unless you want me to, I can. How can NOAA help truckers with a newer MC? Look, I could go down that list again, but I think I'd bore everyone here that is on the panel, and I don't want to continue hogging the microphone. But everything that the National Owner Operators Association offers is geared toward helping people with new MCs. Like I said, I got a phone call this morning, early this morning. Actually, it was a text message from an individual who broke down and was looking for help. We have 24/7 roadside assistance at the National Owner Operators Association. You sign up for that, and you don't need to worry about how you're going to get help in the middle of the night if you break down. Don't wait until your truck breaks down. Get 24/7 roadside assistance now. You get audited in this industry, whether you're in property, household goods, whatever the case may be. Eventually, you're going to get audited. You need someone to help you prepare for that audit. If you're not prepared for that audit, you'll fail the audit and you'll get taken out of service. You'll lose your authority. We have people at the association that can help you keep track of that information that you need for that audit to make sure that you pass it and your life goes on with no headache. Okay? You run into situations where you may need a different piece of equipment. You run drive-ins and you've got a deal now where you need a reefer and you can't afford to buy a reefer. We can help you get a reefer at a reasonable cost where it's not going to put you to the poorhouse, or you won't lose the deal that you're trying to close. You can get a reefer. Maybe you need 5 reefers. We can help you get 5 reefers. Okay? This is what we do here. Maybe you're getting railed on insurance. We've got insurance programs that could help you save money on your insurance. This is what we do here. So this is how NOAA can help new MCs. Once again, same question. I hope that answers your question.
Maybe
that is,
maybe you got railed by a broker and you're not getting paid, or maybe you're under a load that you think could be identity theft. We can help with that stuff too.
We could sit here. You're totally right, Jennifer. But we could sit here all night and talk about the benefits of joining NOAA and how NOAA can help you. But you need to understand that NOAA was created by owner operators and small carriers. We are not guys that sit in offices and don't know anything about trucking, never owned trucks, never drove trucks, can't tell you how trucks are, what they run on. This is not us. Okay. I own trucks. I buy trucks. I maintain trucks. I service trucks. I employ drivers. I've fallen off trucks. I fucking can't stand trucks. But I live and breathe trucks, and this is what we do. So instead of sitting on what we know, like, clowns, we pass this information off to everyone else, along with all of our knowledge and contacts and anything that we can help you, anything we can give you that may help you one day, we're going to give you. Okay. And this is something I did not have when I started in this business. I had to learn everything the hard way. Okay. The first person I leased onto when I decided to get into property, the first company I leased onto robbed me for about $23,000 in, 3 months. The first lease agreement I signed when I left household goods and went into property, that individual robbed me for $23,000, and I almost lost my house. So when I said F this business and decided to when I was asked to get back in it, I said, I'll do it on one condition. If we go back into property, I want to create a Facebook group or something on social media where I could get all owner operators and carriers together, and we could share our experiences and help each other avoid that kind of pitfall. That was the idea of creating owner operators, no authority, no authority. And it has blossomed in what we are here doing right now today. So, but Why did I even start talking about that? Anyway, Jamie, I see you chomping at the bit there. Someone was talking yesterday about how it is illegal in Texas to steal someone's horse, and you could be hung for that still today. That is an active law on the books in the country of Texas. You say, sir, on that. If I come to your house and steal your horse, which may one day happen. I may one day happen. I am not a horse thief now, but I may one day find the need for a good horse, and I know that you may have one.
Well, you know that
on your property
down here in Texas, Mike. Down here in Texas, brother, it is a felony to carry a pair of wire pliers, fence cutters in your back pocket. It's still on the books.
Why? Why? Because
Range
people like you and me may steal someone's cattle or a horse. I'm not into horse thieving, but maybe a cow with some, you know, those ones with those really long horns. Those are very interesting.
They're very expensive too, brother.
I've been pricing them out. They are very. Some of them are those longhorns. Is that what they call them?
Yeah.
Yes.
Longhorns, and there's the Black Angus is the big cow Texas now, which is your Angus beef, and Longhorns, or like registered beef masters. That's where the money's at. Longhorns too, though.
Right.
Or you could breed rodeo cows too, because those make good money too if they're worth a damn.
Really, rodeo cow.
You know, like the cows the buck and bronc things. You know,
The buck and
then they
bulls.
ride the rodeo.
Right.
If they're worth a damn, if they're ranking up, they're worth a lot of money.
Wow. Do they have a lot of rodeos where you are, Jennifer?
Not where I am. No.
Where Jamie is, I'm sure.
Probably.
Oh,
Oh my goodness. We've got a very special guest here tonight, and I am so glad he is here. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Mr. Nate Cain from West Virginia.
Hey,
hey guys, how's it going?
Hey, Nate.
Great now. Absolutely great now. Let me give you the floor here. Once I can figure it out, maybe Jennifer can do that in the background. Mr. Cain, how are you? How's the campaign going?
It's going good. It's going good. It's been busy in the past, and it's going to get even more busy now that we've crossed over into the final, basically 4 months. And May 14th is election day here, and that is it's our primary. But for all intents and purposes, the primary is everything here in West Virginia, being that we're a 3-1 Republican state. So that's really where the rubber's gonna meet the road. Right.
And for anyone that does not know, Mr. Cain is running for. You can speak about what you're running for, Mr.
Sure.
Cain.
So I'm running for the U.S. House of Representatives for the 2nd District of West Virginia. And for that's basically the whole northern half of the state. So it's 27 counties, and it is quite the distance. So sometimes I feel like a truck driver because we put 60,000 miles on our vehicle just in the last, this last year here, driving around the state. And there's no straight road to anything here in West Virginia. As anybody that's ever driven truck through here, you would definitely know that it's a very windy, mountainous terrain here.
Well, I can tell you, we have many members of our Facebook group and some of our other platforms that are residents of West Virginia. They have been in contact with me. It's funny that you would come today because I was actually reading some emails today from some of our members from West Virginia. And last night when you were on a Twitter space, you popped in on a Twitter space, I was contacted by a couple of people that were upset because we ended the space and they wanted to ask you questions. So I told them, you were going to probably be back on the spaces on Saturday, to show up on Saturday because they didn't get a chance to ask their questions. So they asked me to ask them, but I didn't see the text messages until after the space was closed. So there are a lot of people out here following you that are very interested in you, that want to ask you questions. Are you going to be anywhere publicly anytime soon? Do you have any place that you want to make an announcement about?
Sure. Let me look at my calendar. We've got some things that are set up here.
And while he's doing that, anybody, I know there's people out there. I know people out there are watching that are in West Virginia. If you have any questions, you can just pop them up here on the screen, and I'll put them on the screen for Mr. Cain to answer. Mr. Cain, we came out and supported him very early. I believe it was back in June. The second I heard him speak, I was like, yeah, this guy's for truckers. He has a lot of ideas for trucking and the trucking industry as far as transparency is concerned. He's very big on audits, and I'll let him talk about that and what his plans are. But we're very happy to have him here, and he is a friend of truckers, and he is definitely a good choice, an excellent choice for West Virginia. Based on our business in West Virginia.
So I've got a few things that are coming up in a couple of weeks. It's iffy right now because of the weather being what it is. Some things might get canceled because like I was supposed to be down in Short Mountain tomorrow to basically hear the people of Hardy County where they're putting up windmills 500 feet away from people's homes. And, people are not thrilled about that idea, and I don't blame them. And so I was going to go down. I was invited to come down, but we've got a snowstorm coming in here tomorrow. And that's going to pretty much because of that, they've canceled it. And they're going to basically do it through a Zoom meeting. So I'll be there on that. So I imagine there's going to be a number of those types of things that occur. So, but one of the things that I'm definitely, going to try to get down to is, let's see here. And it depends on where people are. I mean, like I said, it's a pretty big area, but we're going to be out in Hayden City. They've got, this was, I think on the 11th, I got to double check the date on that, which is over in no, it's not that day. I'll tell you what, the best thing to do is I'll get a calendar of events and I'll have it ready for Saturday, and I'll make sure and get that out to you, because trying to look at my calendar here on the fly, and my wife's got this whole thing color coded. And to be honest with you, I just go wherever she tells me to go.
We all do.
So I've got I know I'm going to be, I am going to be in Hayden City, I think either next week or maybe the following, which is out on the Ohio River Valley, that area. There's also a MOVCAC group, which is they're a Citizens Action Coalition group that basically, I call them, I like to say that they're the preppers without the tinfoil hats. They're my people. They basically are. They have different presentations, and they'll bring people in to speak about safety and preparing for difficult times and stuff like that. Like they brought in somebody that talked about how to make a straw bale garden and stuff like that. And so it's really interesting. They have a lot of really good speakers, but they've also allowed me to come speak there too, which is great. And these are definitely your salt of the earth, good people, that are helping their neighbors and things like that. But they're also been some of my greatest volunteers. And so I try to get out to those meetings as much as I can. And so they've got one that's going to be in Romney, and that'll be coming up, and I'll be going to that this month. And then there's one out in Wood County, in Parkersburg, and one in Harrisburg. So I'll try to get the dates published for those. And those are good meetings because usually at those there's some time to talk. Like the GOP meetings, I'll go to and they give me like 5 minutes. That's it. And
Wow.
there's really no time for questions or anything like that. But we are going to be doing. We're going to be holding a mineral rights owners meeting, and we don't have a date set yet for it, but we're looking to schedule something in Monongalia County, near Morgantown. And so I'll definitely get that date to you. And those are longer form meetings, and we have a lot of mineral owners here in West Virginia, and they've been experiencing some issues with not getting paid their just due for the minerals that they own. And so I've been speaking out against that and fighting for the people. One of the things you'll find out about me is that I'm definitely not your typical politician. I remember early on when I got in this race, somebody was like, you need to go, start lining up PACs and things like that to, bring money into your campaign. And when I started looking into it, I'm like, well, I don't necessarily want to be beholden to that group or to this, corporate group. And so I kind of shied away from that. And I'm glad I did because, it has made it more difficult because every dollar that has come into my campaign has come from individual donors. And I've gotten donations that have come in from up to, I think, something like 39 different states. The fact is that's really the way that it should be, because it means that I'm beholden to the people and not beholden to special interest groups or, corporate interests. One of the things that I've made a pledge to do is I will meet with lobbyists, and oftentimes they have very important information to bring forward. But every meeting that I have with a lobbyist, it's going to be recorded and it's going to be made public. I don't believe that these meetings should be in secret, because that's where, especially with lobbyists, because there's oftentimes donations and things like that are made, and I want to make sure that everything is above board. The one thing that I am absolutely and totally opposed to is corruption. And I think that that's evidenced by my being a former FBI whistleblower and blowing the whistle on the FBI for their corruption in covering up the crimes surrounding Hillary Clinton and Uranium One. That was a very difficult thing to do. It took an incredible amount of faith in God. A lot of people would say that I was courageous, but to be honest with you, it was faith in God, which is what allowed me to be able to make the decision to do that and trust that God was going to get me through it. And I went through some very difficult times. It was certainly not easy. It ended with me getting protection under the Intelligence Community Whistleblower Protection Act, but ultimately, even with that, 4 months after I finished blowing the whistle, and it took almost a year to completely do the process, the FBI raided my home with 16 agents and really put my family through quite a bit. So it's been a very interesting road and path to get here, running for office. It wasn't something that I ever was thinking, no, this is something that I want to do. In fact, I think my natural inclination is to want to do the exact opposite, because I like my quiet life here in West Virginia. And I enjoy, working on my own business and cybersecurity, which I've been doing for 26 years. And I started my own business 3 years ago, and it's been successful. But things being what they are, and our country being where it's at, the reality is that if good people don't step up and start making themselves available to serve their communities and to serve their country, then where we are right now is just going to keep on heading down that bad path. And I, in November, was praying and asking God to raise up righteous men and women to run for office. And I heard that still small voice say to me, "What about you?" And so I answered the call and decided to run. And so that's why I'm here doing this. And if it hadn't been for that, what I found is that this whole experience has ended up causing me to meet some really amazing people, not just in West Virginia, but people all over the country, people like you. And I think we met each other on a Twitter Spaces, and that was an interesting night for me, and I learned a whole lot about an industry that I, up to that point, had no idea about, the kinds of things that you guys deal with. and the kinds of problems that have been happening in your industry. And so I think that was followed up with a I don't know how long we talked for on the phone, but we had a really long phone call, and we talked about a lot of issues that you guys have been going through, and the Carrier Act problems that it has caused, the issues with brokers, and and how it has basically cut into your ability to make a living. And so I think we sat down that night and we talked for, I don't know, it felt like a couple hours, and you know digging into and trying to come up with some solutions, and and so that's how we ended up meeting each other, and how I ended up getting connected with you guys.
Nate, it's, when we announced that we were going to be supporting you, so many people reached out to us that are from West Virginia that had questions. Many of them had questions about you as a former whistleblower. And I had some questions about that, because what I noticed is a lot of these government agencies have like tabs on their websites where if you're a whistleblower, you can make an anonymous you can do something like it. But I went to one, I'll be honest, I went to the SEC website a couple of weeks ago to look at the whistleblower section. It's weird. Like it's a difficult process. It's not easy to file a complaint as a whistleblower. Can you talk about that process?
Yeah, sure. So within the federal government, there are two major laws that impact whistleblowers. There's the Whistleblower Protection Act, the WPA, that only applies to federal employees. Any federal contractors cannot blow the whistle with that particular law, so it does not apply to them. However, there is a law called the Intelligence Community Whistleblower Protection Act that was passed that a federal contractor can utilize to blow the whistle. However, it states emphatically in that law that it does not protect you against reprisal. So what its value is questionable. Certainly, it did provide me some protections from, for example, I had to blow the whistle on classified documents. So I had to take classified documents out of the FBI. Now, in my case, I actually had a courier card, so I was able to lawfully do that. But let's say that I had not had a courier card, it would still allow me to be able to take those documents out of, a classified zone, if you will, following certain prescribed methods for transporting them. But I could take them to the IG under the Intelligence Community Whistleblower Protection Act, so and not be prosecuted for that. And so that's really all it does. It really doesn't protect you against anything else. So you can still get fired from your job. You can still get, raided, targeted. And so anybody that's thinking of blowing the whistle, they need to understand that, you need to weigh the consequences of that decision. And, and you need to understand that what you're doing, is for the right reasons. Because if you have any doubt in your mind that they're not going to come after you, then you definitely you don't understand what you're getting yourself into. These agencies ultimately want to protect themselves, and the whistleblower protection laws, quite honestly, are broken. In fact, I'm going to be doing an interview on Sunday with a man who's doing putting together a documentary. And I'll be talking about how our whistleblower programs are broken, and how, basically the things that are wrong with them. And part of the problem is the IG ultimately is paid by the Department of Justice, the very organization that he's supposed to be, essentially acting like an internal, affairs type of person. But he has ultimately no prosecutorial power. So if the IG ends up in that case, and he sees something that's wrong, all he can do is refer make a referral to the FBI, for criminal activity. Well, the problem is if the problem is within the FBI, what do you think the chances are that the FBI is going to investigate themselves? It's slim to none. And what do you think the chances are? Let's say that the FBI did investigate themselves, and but let's say that ultimately the only people who can legally bring an indictment and actually decide to prosecute is the Department of Justice. And so, the FBI is subordinate to them. So there's all these problems with the fox guarding the hen house. And that is really, the issue there, and why we can't, basically trust the system to work correctly. So it really takes courage. It takes bravery, and and I would say, either faith in God or maybe some stupidity, one or the other, to step out and blow the whistle.
Right. What are some of the things that you're going to do when you get to Washington to protect whistleblowers? Because this is an important thing. Like, you need to be, if you see something wrong, you need to be able to get it out there. What are some of the things you can do as a representative in Washington now? Let's look forward. Let's look into it. You're there. What are some of the things you can do?
So one of the things that definitely needs to happen, and I do believe we need a complete overhaul of our whistleblower protection laws. The law does need to apply to both, federal employees and, federal contractors. You have many federal contractors that are working within the government. And what you don't want happening is you don't want the government deciding to put contractors in positions where they want to essentially have, prevent whistleblowing from going on. And I've actually seen that. I worked for a Navy organization at one point where there was criminal activity that was going on within this organization in the way that they were reporting up vulnerabilities on I be careful about what I say here, but let's just say on a government system, there were multiple vulnerabilities on that system, and they were misreporting that to, higher echelon. And I was a contractor and I had no protection whatsoever. And I remember going to my boss and saying, what am I supposed to do here? The guy before me, they had fired because he reported honestly. And here I could get fired if I reported honestly, and, and possibly lose my career. So, he, at that point in my life, he suggested to me, well, you got to think about, what is the most important thing? What's the main thing? Is your ability to provide for your family and all of that. And if you go blowing the whistle and, and ends up ultimately costing you your job, then how are you going to provide for your family? And this is a reality. And so I made the decision, I prayed about it, and I made the decision that it was best for me to move on and leave that job. And so I started looking for another job, and I actually got hired as a Navy civilian and ended up going overseas to Japan. And as a civilian, I had protections under the WPA. And so if I saw something corrupt, I could say something about it. But that was when I left the contracting world. And then eventually I left the government world several years later to go back to being a contractor when the FBI offered me twice my salary to come work for them. And I ended up right back into another situation where this time I decided I was not going to just leave, but I was going to blow the whistle before leaving. And and so I think that's an interesting point in that, God will often test us. And if we fail that test, we're almost, guaranteed to face that test again. And I think that may be, kind of what happened to me there. When I was a contractor, I had an opportunity to blow the whistle, and I chose to leave instead of blowing the whistle. And then when I left government service and went back to contracting, I ended up right smack dab in the middle of probably the most high profile whistleblowing case that had occurred, probably in a decade in America. I mean, when the story broke, it made international news.
I want to get back to that, but I got a couple of questions, and I know I know Jamie and Chris and Jennifer have some questions too. But I want to go back to that whistleblower thing with Hillary Clinton. But Jamie, go ahead, sir.
And I said, well, that kind of shows the depth of the corruption, right? The corruption in the deep state. It's a good depiction of where our government's at and where we're at as a country. That you had a contractor job, seen something, didn't say nothing, come out, went civilian, then went back contracting, and then did. I mean, it just shows the depth of the corruption. Um,
Yeah.
it doesn't surprise me. You know, y'all know I wear a tinfoil hat. I got it on under this hat, so keep my hair
Cool.
nice. But yeah, man.
Jennifer, your mic.
That's not me. That's Chris Bennick.
Chris, is that your mic?
I want to remind you, you know, we put a lot of your flyers out in Texas at the truck show. A lot of them. And if you got anything new to add, get them to us, because we got Florida coming up next month, and then we got Matt's, which is the biggest truck show in America, in Missouri in March 21st, 22nd, 23rd. So get us the information so we can continue to promote and get you out there.
Will do. You know, I had mentioned earlier that you know, my campaign has received donations that have come from all over the country. And in fact, you know, Texas is one of the largest donors to my campaign, outside of West Virginia, of course. But also, like California, New York, and Florida are also in the top 4. And you know, that was surprising to me when I saw, you know, places like California and New York. But what I've realized is there's a lot of conservatives that live in New York and that live in California that, you know, they feel helpless, and they don't have a candidate really that they can support that is a decent candidate. Or maybe they do, but they know that he doesn't have a chance because their elections are so rigged there. And it's important for people to understand that just because somebody is not in your district doesn't mean, you know, that they, you know, that you and maybe you can't vote for them, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't support them, because in fact, while you may not be able to vote for them, they can vote for you. And they can vote for you by basically representing, you know, your interests when it comes to things like, you know, the Constitution and your rights, you know, small government, deregulation, all those things that we need in order to, you know, basically improve our lives, you know, are things that, you know, that there are certain candidates that are, you know, that are running on those principles. And that's something that, you know, that I want to do. Is to return a lot of the power, quite frankly, that has been given over to the federal government back to the states. You know, I feel like centralization of power is a dangerous thing. It makes things more efficient without a doubt, but that efficiency can also lead to an efficiency of corruption. And so, you know, that's what we have to be mindful of. And our founders, you know, they set up our country with a separation of powers on purpose. You know, so that we don't have, you know, any government, you know, body becoming too powerful. But unfortunately, much of that separation of powers has been, you know, watered down through things like executive, you know, orders that the president can do, which is basically legislating from the executive, or it might be legislating from the bench, where you have judges that interpret, you know, very loosely these laws, and they interpret them outside the intent of what those laws were created. Or it could be in the, you know, the executive branches that have, you know, these different agencies, like take the EPA. You've got the EPA, and they're able to create law and fine people, you know, and you know, and go after people. I mean, I think I remember reading something like, I can't remember how many millions of rounds of ammo, you know, that the EPA, you know, had purchased, but it's like, why the hell do they need ammo? You know, it's so, you know, and you see that with the IRS too. The IRS, you know, buying millions of rounds of ammo. Same thing with, you know, the FEMA, and you got to wonder, like, what's going on here? You know, why do these federal agencies need so much ammo? You know, because they actually, you know, are enforcing laws, and unfortunately, oftentimes enforcing illegal, unconstitutional laws that they have created that were not created by the legislature. So that this is part of the problem, that's going on, in our country, and quite honestly, with our entire federal government. It's become way too big, and now you've got, I'm sure many people have heard the term deep state. Well, what deep state means is it is the administrative state of bureaucrats. These are not, people who are voted on. These are people who, are selected and appointed to these positions of power under what they call the senior executive service. That is the deep state, and it is a real thing, and it does exist, and it oftentimes survives presidencies because there are so many of these positions throughout Washington, and these are the guys who are really pulling the puppet strings behind the scenes, and oftentimes their policy decisions, even if they're illegal or if they're wrong, they go without any kind of accountability or punishment for the crimes that they commit.
Right. And, I want to follow up with something Jamie said, Mr. Cain. We were down in Texas at the Texas Trucking Show. They did make a point to hand out many, many, many flyers for you, and they spoke to so many people. Jennifer, I believe Jennifer was there. Jamie was there. Caitlin was there. Jake was there. A few other people were there. Jennifer, do you want to talk about that situation? Because I know you guys spoke to like thousands of people down in Texas and gave out flyers on Mr. Cain's behalf. Do you want to expand on that?
Yeah, actually, from the time that I got to Texas, I actually flew in early morning that Saturday morning and flew back out Sunday night at the end of the show. So I was quick trip in and out. But I mean, from the time I hit the ground, the time I left, Jamie will attest that I never stopped talking the whole time. Not that I mean, you all probably cannot even imagine that, right? I mean, me talking. But anyways, and I know that as people came by the table and we talked about our services, we also said, and this is a guy running for House Representatives in West Virginia, and on and on and on. And we told a lot about you and how you supported us, how we didn't really know you that well in the beginning, but that you took the time to listen to us and understand our issues, that you took a personal interest in that, and not everybody has done that. Not everybody has taken that time. There's many that have, but not everybody has done that. And the fact that you didn't know that much about us, that you didn't really have an investment in the transportation industry, but you still took the time to understand what we are facing and help us. We wanted to add that support out there. And if they knew people in your districts or whatever, or wanted to make donations, they could do that. But we had the little flyers for your campaign, and handed them out along with all of our literature as well. So definitely and handed out that support for you, and we appreciate the support that you've given to us.
Absolutely.
We were in after that one. We were in Ontario, California, and Chris was manning that booth, and we didn't have any of your literature at that time. Chris, did we have any of Nate Cain's literature when we were in Ontario, California?
No, we didn't.
That's too bad.
Okay.
I actually have family there. So
Yeah,
I wish my brother lives in Ontario.
Yeah, Chris is in Idaho. We have a very large, we have many people in Idaho that are members of the association and that watch Noah Live. Look, you're totally right. Look, I'm in New York. I'm actually in the 5 boroughs, and when it comes to trucking and many of the issues that concern me and my family, the people they don't care. So you're right. We do support people in other states, because even though my vote won't really matter too much here in New York, I know that if I support someone like you can vote for me in Congress if you're there. So he makes a very good point for everyone that's watching this. It doesn't matter if he's not in your state. He could still represent you from West Virginia if you have the same views. And him and I really do have the same views. Go ahead, Jennifer.
And I was just going to say, I don't really feel like I have a great support system here in the great state of Mississippi. We kind of fall last in a lot of states, in a lot of areas, unfortunately. But, I don't really, I tried to reach out to my senators, and one didn't even respond to me, and the other one sent his do all people, and they kind of laughed me off there, out of their office, whatever. So I don't really feel like I had great support here. Did not talk to my House of Representatives people, so I can't speak to them. But and then, so I look to candidates like yourself to be able to represent us on universal issues that are across the board, in things like trucking or in things like constitutionality or whatever, things that aren't directly related to my state necessarily. So I appreciate all that you do, and I support the candidates that are out there supporting us.
Well, I'll tell you, what I find that is particularly important about your organization, and I'm finding this across multiple industries, not just yours, is you guys are the epitome of small business owners. And unfortunately, a lot of times what you have these big corporations that own a lion's share of a particular industry, and because of that, they've got massive millions of dollars to hire lawyers and lobbyists and buy politicians and all of that kind of thing. And so what ends up happening is that people who are the individual small business owners, oftentimes they're the ones who are forgotten about, because these people who we send down to Washington to quote unquote represent us, they're not representing us. Oftentimes they're representing the interests of these big corporations or special interest groups, and they're not representing the American people and the small business owners who make up the bulk of the jobs in America. And so that is one of the things that I was so pleased to be introduced to your group and to find out about what you guys are about, because you guys are the heart of America. Most jobs in America come from the small business sector, and your job is one that is part of the national critical infrastructure. It's extremely important. I mean, we found that out during COVID when all the ports were shutting down, and you didn't have supplies that were getting moved across the country. And I remember going into the grocery store and seeing shelves that were bare and empty, and I remember needing to buy something, even something from Amazon. I would go online, and it would, like, where I could have gotten it the next day before COVID, after, it was like, oh, it's going to take 2 weeks. And the main reason was because the supply chain was broken. And so that supply chain is so critical to our national security. And it's one of the reasons that I think it's extremely important to, protect the trucking industry, and particularly the independent owner operators who make up the bulk, of the transportation of, goods and services across the country.
Nate, that's one thing I've said from the beginning, is that a lot of people don't even think about the supply chain and the trucking industry as being a hot button topic. We're not green energy. We're not talking about military war. We're not talking about those kinds of those kinds of things. So I think a lot of times we get backburnered, not realizing how critical of a part that we actually play in this country as a whole. Like the whole, I just don't think people realize it, and then they're so used to everything just being there. We've just gotten so normalized that they don't realize what would happen if it's not there. So, and how long it would take to get that supply chain back in the right direction if something were to interrupt it. So, I appreciate that.
One thing that might not be a bad idea to consider in the future. You're right. A lot of people have no idea what that term supply chain even means. I happen to understand it because cybersecurity and supply chain, it plays an important role in when I'm doing an evaluation of a product that we're going to put on a government system. I need to know where all the components came from, because China is notorious for, installing malware on circuitry. So I learned about supply chain risk management a long time ago, and the fact that if you can't get the things that are necessary that you're going to need, that are necessary for, say, weapon systems, because most of my career has been working in the Defense Department, then that puts your nation at a major risk. Well, it was not a hard step for me to go from there to understanding the supply chain issues that relate to transportation, with regarding the trucking industry. And so one of the things that might not be a bad idea would be to hold a maybe an X spaces or something, and we call it supply chain risk management or something like that. Just use some terminology that's kind of sexy and exciting and new, and that people might be what is that about, and bring you guys in to talk about your particular portion of that, and then bring in some other people, maybe from somebody that deals in the shipping industry or something like that, with overseas carriers, and maybe somebody that works in a port or something like that. I do think that those types of forums that bring people together so that you can get a full understanding of the different issues and how they work together, and why it's important, that it's basically it's a well-oiled machine, which is what makes our country great. Even having a historian that can talk about, what was life like, back in, the early 1900s, when you didn't have, or maybe I guess probably earlier than that, maybe the late 1800s, when you didn't have trucks moving goods and services across the country and things like that. What was the likelihood that you were going to be able to, to find bread, or be able to get food, or or be able to get medicine or things like that? And you can actually find those very interesting correlations behind that. There's a book that I read with my wife, and it's I want to say it's called 1842 and the Post-Columbian Revolution, and it talks about how it was after Columbus. What would it be? It'd be not 18. It'd be 1492. But anyways, I'll find the name of the book and get it to you guys. But what this book gets into is it talks about how prior to Columbus discovering America, and basically the most important thing that occurred after that was trade that happened all around the world because of it. That's really when all of a sudden the shipping industry exploded, because now you had goods that came from America that could get shipped over to Europe. And there were things that I found out, like, for example, when you think of Italy, right? What is the one vegetable that that you would think about when somebody mentions Italian food, right? The tomato. Well, the tomato didn't even exist prior to Christopher Columbus in Italy. It was brought from Peru and brought there. When you think about something like chili peppers, right? When you think of chili peppers, what's the countries that come to mind? It's Central and South America, right? When you think of Mexican food, and you think of South American food. And the reality is the chili pepper came from Southeast Asia, and prior to the Columbian Revolution, there were very few chili peppers, if at all, in South America. And so these things, like, even when you think of China and you think of their staple today, right? What is their number one staple? The number one export that the United States exports to China is rice. And and I don't know if that's still the case, but it was at one point. But the point is that you go back prior to Columbus, and there was no rice largely being produced in China. That came from the Philippines, and it came after they had a sweet potato famine, and because the sweet potato was their staple before that. So the thing about trade and about transportation, and of course in that case I'm talking about international transportation, but transportation has opened up the door so that we can get things that otherwise we wouldn't be able to get. And that's what I think is so amazing about transportation, and why it's so important to protect that. Because if the trucks ever shut down, and this is what I worry about with all of this, quite honestly, with all this climate change agenda, I believe they're trying to kill us all. I think that the whole climate change cult, is what I like to call it, is really not about making America's air cleaner and environment cleaner. That's not what it's about at all. It's about removing all human impact on the environment. And the fact is that we're part of the environment, and we are managers of the environment, and we've mastered the environment in many ways. And if we are doing things that are basically counterproductive to human life and even having any kind of potential, then that's just an anti-human ideology. And quite honestly, we shouldn't be supporting it. And so I look at that, and these are the same people that want to take trucks off the road. They want everybody to go to battery operated, which is, that in and of itself makes no sense. Those batteries are super expensive. They're super difficult to get the rare earth minerals out of the ground, completely destroying the environment in doing that process. And those batteries weigh a hell of a lot more than a truck full of fuel. And so if we think we got problems with trucks tearing up the roads now, wait till we put a whole bunch of electric trucks on the road. And that will be one step closer, to unmanned trucks, where then nobody takes responsibility for when somebody gets killed. And you have people that are, losing their jobs due to automation in that field. So there's a lot of concerns that I have that go way beyond probably anything that probably most truckers are even thinking about. But I'm thinking about these things because I'm concerned about the health and longevity of our country and our being able to be a place, a country that, like, why are we paying the cost for fuel that we are? That's a good example. We have abundant natural resources here in America. There's no reason at all for us to be paying what we are paying for fuel costs. The only reason is because essentially you have a cartel is controlled by the government who is fixing the prices instead of allowing for there to be, more production and more production of fuel here in America and energy independence, which would ultimately drive down the price of fuel, which would be better for everybody. So these are the things that, by the way, don't just affect truckers, but they affect the farmer. When the farmer goes out to the field and he's got to grow crops, I met with a group of farmers, and what I found was that the biggest thing that concerns them right now is inflation, because it's all of the inputs and outputs that go into a farm. All the inputs are things like fuel and fertilizer and grain, and all the things that they're having to spend now a lot more money for than they used to have to spend. And they're losing their farms because of it.
They're like us, Nate. They work on small profit margins, brother. You
Yeah.
touched on something that I wanna give back real quick, and I want you to think about this, and I know you do, but I want everybody else to realize it. 95% of the industry, just what you said, is small carriers and owner operators. Every industry in America, every store in America, no matter if they're mega stores, box stores, small business, they depend on us to be able to conduct their business. That's what everybody's got to remember. Everything ends up on a truck at one point, and 95% of it we move. So that's important. And man, you touched on so many great things right there. Um, you're definitely on point, brother, and I really appreciate you.
Really quickly, Mr. Cain, I want to point out that you've got a viewer who says power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. There's a lot of absolute in there. Deep state thrives on centralization of power. Mr. Nate made a 100% right point on how the deep state forms its organs and functions when its powers are not separated and checked. That is a supporter from Pakistan, sir. So he is
they certainly would know. They would certainly know. It's interesting. These issues, this is a perfect example of how America really is meant to be a beacon and a light of hope for the world. But unfortunately, for the last several years, really the last 4 years, we failed in that. And now look what's happened. We see war in the Ukraine. We see war in Israel. Guaranteed, if Trump was there, we would not be seeing what we're seeing right now. because he was, for as much as he sometimes likes to run his mouth, and he is a New Yorker, and people need to remember that. No offense to New York here, but I'll tell you, when I joined the military and I met guys from New York, I couldn't stand them because I was from California, and we're like, that's like laid back, right? And like is exact opposite. We would never confront people the way that people in New York confront people, because you guys have so many people packed into a small area, and and half of the year it's cold as hell, so people are pissed off half the time. But what I've noticed is that what I've learned to appreciate about New Yorkers is they always tell you what they're thinking. You don't ever have to second guess, and their candor is straight up with you. And so a lot of people don't like that, and I think that's one of the things that they that turns people off about Trump. And but the fact is the man, he speaks the truth, and when he promised to do things, he did them. He followed through with them. And I think that is one of those things that it has an impact on the larger stage around the world. And so our friend from Pakistan, thank you for that comment. You're absolutely correct in that. And that statement that power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely was made by Lord Acton. And that is one that I quote quite often, because I have seen a consolidation of power here in the United States. I know this is a little off topic, but I want to bring it up, and because it is something that you guys get around the country, and this is an important issue for people all around the country, that they need to understand what happened. I recently, and I mentioned this and talked about it on the Spaces the other night, but I recently was a signer of an open letter that 231 of us former military veterans, or people who are still in the service, signed an open letter calling for military accountability for those leaders who forced the COVID vaccine mandate on our military service members.
I read that one.
Yeah, and it was extremely important for us to do this. A lot of people may think, well, what's the big deal? It's just a letter. In fact, I had somebody I was on with today that pretty much said that to me, and so I corrected them. And I said, well, here's why it's a big deal. Sure, there's a lot of people that in the past have gone out and done open letters, and and it's a bunch of elites and a bunch of experts that get up, and intelligence officers that said that that the Hunter Biden laptop was Russian propaganda. Remember that one? There's a lot of these open letters that are quite honestly bullshit. And excuse my language, but that's really what it is. These letters are propaganda. They're political posturing, and they're nothing more than that. But this letter is different because it's not written by a bunch of elites. It's written by your rank and file military personnel. It is signed by rank and file officers. There's no flag officers, that have signed this letter. This is coming from, commanders and lieutenant commanders and captains and majors and enlisted guys. I mean, I was a specialist E4. I was nothing, fancy in the military, but I went out and I served as a military civilian all the way up to GS-13, which is the equivalent of like a lieutenant colonel. And the point is that the guys that sign this thing, they're the people who understand what the impact was to our service members. The fact is, they broke the trust of the service members because the law stated that they could not use an experimental vaccine, not even with a emergency use authorization. They could not force it on soldiers. The fact is that soldiers, yes, they may give up privileges, but they do not give up their rights just because they go into the military to serve. They're still American citizens, and they deserve their constitutional rights. And one of the rights that they deserve is informed consent, but they were coerced into taking this. Those that refused were kicked out with other than honorable discharge, which means, it's like getting a felony on your record. And how do you go and get a job, when you've been kicked out, with other than honorable discharge? They've destroyed people's careers. They've destroyed soldiers economically. There were guys that had served honorably for 17 years and were kicked out, and and they lost their retirements, their pensions. What they did was so egregious And we are saying in this letter that we are going to hold them accountable. And we've pledged, all of us in this letter, that we will run for office, that we will do everything within our power under the law. We're not calling for mutiny. We're not calling for violence, but we are calling for those of us that believe this and then understand this and have committed to this. We are pledging ourselves to run for office and to ensure that those military leaders that violated the law and the Constitution and the rights of these military service members, that they pay the price. And so we've called for a recall of all of these generals that have retired, that were involved in this, like General Milley, and we want to see them court-martialed, and we want to see them lose their retirement over this. That is the minimum, by the way, that we all 231 agreed on. I will go one step further. Now, I look at this and I say, okay, why did they push this mandatory, vaccine mandate? And I will tell you why I believe it was done. Because it was done not only within the military, but within the federal government and within the contracting corps, right? So that means everybody who had any semblance of backbone, who had any kind of courage to stand up when something was being done to them that was evil and wrong. That means anybody who's, a true conservative that believes that the government should have limited power. Means that anybody that was a Christian that believed that these, had religious objections to the vaccine because of it being created through fetal stem lines. It means that anybody that was a Trump supporter, that was likely to not, remember Trump came out and said he didn't want any mandates at all. Yes, he may have been involved in the creation of the vaccine through Operation Warp Speed, but that purpose of it was to give to people who were at high risk, and it was never intended for children, never intended for the healthy. In fact, he very adamantly stated that he did not want any kind of mandates. That came about as a result of Biden. So the reason I believe they did all this is because it was an easy way for them to remove every conservative, every Christian, every Trump supporter, every person who has any kind of backbone whatsoever out of the military, out of the government, out of the contractors. That's why. So the people who who are conservative, the people who are Christians, the people who are Trump supporters that did not refuse this, they're not likely going to be a threat to those in power. It's the ones who were kicked out who will and would absolutely be a threat to those in power, because they're not going to tolerate a communist takeover. And so I'm very concerned that the point and purpose of the vaccine mandate was to identify those people that they could remove and get out of the government. And then January 6th, same thing. What have they done with that? They've turned January 6th into a means of rounding up citizens all across the country that had the audacity to exercise their First Amendment and make their grievances known to their government by assembling in public and exercising their free speech. That is, enshrined in our Constitution. Now, were there some people that rioted, some people that broke, windows, some people that, trespassed? Sure. But that doesn't equate to an insurrection. Not a single one of those people was armed. In fact, the only person that was shot that day, was Ashley Babbitt, who did not have a gun on her. And so I am appalled at what has happened in our country. This is probably the most important issue. If there's nothing else, it is the most important issue to me, is protecting our constitutional rights. And that means the constitutional rights of every American, whether they believe in those rights or not, whether they are somebody that agrees with me or not. They have a right to protest. They have a right to speech. They have a right to make their grievances known to their government. They have a right to say no when the government says you have to get vaccinated. They have a right to challenge authority when authority brings an unjust law or brings an unjust edict. We don't live in a dictatorship. We live in a constitutional republic. and our government is supposed to be of the people, by the people, and for the people. So that is what I stand for.
Yeah. We were down in Washington in September, and we were having a bunch of meetings with congressmen and senators and others down there. We were coming to the end of the week, and it was a long week, and we were standing outside on the side of the Supreme Court, right on the side. We were across the street, and we thought one of the Capitol Police was walking down the street. Everybody's so cool down there, you know. We were talking with everyone. We were having a good time, you know, meeting a bunch of people, talking with people and stuff. This time, the weather was nice. It was still nice. It was in September, and this guy comes walking down the street, and he's got, you know, he's in uniform, and we thought he was one of the Capitol Police. So I said to him, "Hey, how you doing?" And he was like, "Hey, what's up?" I was like, "Capitol Police." He was like, "No, we're not the Capitol Police. Supreme Court." He said, I said, "So what's the difference?" He said, "We don't F up." He looked me right in the face. He said, "We don't fuck up." And I was like, "Okay, gotcha." You know, there was a lot going on that day. I think there's a lot of unanswered questions, and I think there are people that know the answers, and I'm sure that guy's probably one of them. But you know, he made his feelings known to us that day. We thought it was funny, but he was real cool. I want to point out to everyone here, I've got it on the screen. I've had it up for a while. If you'd like to know more about Nate Cain, who's running for Congress in West Virginia, you can go to www.natecain4wvwestvirginia.com. Nate Cain for westvirginia.com. There is a tab if you'd like to donate. Anything would help. $1, $10, whatever, $5, $100, whatever you can do. And we know there are some out there that can donate more. If you can, please do. Nate Cain is a very interesting person. We love him, we support him, and we think you should too. He is he's the type of person we need in Congress. And believe me, I'm there often. I am speaking with people there often, and I can tell you we need people like Nate Cain in Congress. I just found the individual here who is an Army veteran, and he contacted me last night after the Twitter space. He was a little upset. He said he wanted to speak to you. I believe he is a West Virginia resident. His name's Charles. And he said, I wanted to ask Nate what he thought about the trucker convoy in Canada. I think I know why he wanted your opinion on this, because Vivek Ramaswamy mentioned this in a statement or an interview that he made a lot of references toward this the Canadian convoy, and how he saluted them and supported them. So I believe that's why he was asking this. He wanted your opinion on the trucker convoy in Canada. And also he also asked, why did God allow him to have a voice? I'm trying to find my voice as well. So those were his questions that he had for you last night. He wanted me to ask you, and I have my response here, but I told him I would ask you, but he could ask you himself.
Absolutely. No, and just so you know, and I'll just share this. If there's anybody at all that, you know, is part of your organization that wants to reach out to me, feel free to share my number. Don't post it online, but you can give them my contact information. I'm more than happy to talk to them. I'm obviously super busy right now in the heat of campaign, so if I don't answer, and I normally don't answer numbers that I don't know, but if they leave a message, I do check my messages. and I will try to return it. It might sometimes take a few days if I'm in the heat of campaigning, but you can also give them my email, and I'm more than happy to to try to respond. But text is probably the best way to get a hold of me, honestly. To answer his question, I absolutely 100% support the trucker convoy that happened up in Canada. In fact, to me, I don't know if you guys saw the news of what was going on yesterday in Germany. It was awesome. You had farmers that took out their heavy equipment and basically drove down the road with it to the capital. And I saw one dump truck that was dumping manure on the Capitol steps. That was awesome.
I saw that. It would never happen here, but I did see that.
I mean, I was
Hey,
just like,
somebody
"Dang, man,
made a
that's-"
meme out of that and said it was TQL's headquarters. It was funny.
Well, and I saw somebody else like pouring concrete or something. I mean, it was like,
Oh,
these are
boy.
farmers. These are
Yeah.
farmers. I mean, I didn't think farmers had it in them to do that, but you know what? Good on them, because the government, this is what I believe. Thomas Jefferson, I think, said it best. A government that does not fear the people leads to tyranny. A government that fears the people leads to liberty. And the fact is the government should never feel like they could just get away with anything. I'm of the opinion that we should not have the reason why our members of Congress can get away with all the crap that they're getting away with is because they have far better security than we do. And I don't agree with that. To me, if you're a good representative, if you're actually concerned with the people whom you represent, and you are doing, or you're doing your work righteously, you should have nothing to fear from your people. In fact, if anything, you should know that if anybody ever tried to do anything, that your people are going to come and back you up, and they're going to protect you. And that's the thing is, I want to be that kind of representative. I want to be the kind of representative that the next election, it's not a matter of me having to go campaign so hard, because it will be, there'll be no possible reason why people would want to vote for anybody else, because I've been such a good representative, and have listened to them, and have heard their heard their concerns, and have acted on it. That's what I intend to do. I intend to earn the vote. That's why I've already started doing things like working on a Parents' Bill of Rights, and submitting that to the state legislature, working with you guys. And I do want to still sit down and look at some of the proposed legislative changes that you guys are wanting, so that way I can go in there equipped to start, putting forward legislation. And but there are things that I can do now, even before getting into office, and I'm willing to do those things and to fight for the people, because ultimately, that is the kind of I want the kind of representative. I want to be the kind of representative that I wish to have, right? I don't remember who it was that said that you contact your representatives, they don't even respond. And that is how I feel oftentimes. I've contacted my representatives, my senators, I don't ever get any response from them. And that is just not the way it should be. Now, so to answer the question, I absolutely, I think that when you have an industry that is being affected negatively by policies that are coming out of Washington, and they're too obtuse to actually get together with the farmers or the truckers or whoever is dealing with the downstream consequences of stupid laws that are being passed, stupid regulations, or price controls that are basically, or where they're fixing the price and making sure that there's no competition, so that the price of oil and gas and all of that stays artificially high. I have no problem with truck drivers saying, "Hey, we're not going to put up with this, and we're going to go, go make ourselves known." What these truckers did in Canada, they were nonviolent. They went and they protested. Sure, they clogged up the highways, but you know what? That's an effective way to get the attention, of the legislators. And on that note, if you guys remember, do you remember how all of that, ultimately the truckers were unsuccessful because the government had a power that they were able to utilize. You see, they already had central bank digital currency there. And Justin Trudeau, with the flip of a switch, was able to empty every trucker's bank account immediately, overnight. That's theft. They went into their, basically, you might as well have broken into their home and stole their possessions. This is one of the main reasons why I am 100% opposed to any kind of central bank digital currency. The government should never have that kind of power and authority. They already have it when it comes to spying on the American people, and they absolutely should not. And so I would like to see things like Section 702 of FISA removed completely out of the hands of the FBI at a minimum, because they're a domestic agency. What the hell do they need a foreign intelligence surveillance tool for anyways? But we already know that they abuse their power all day long, and they do it with impunity. Nobody, there was you had 276,000 Americans were spied on illegally with Section 702 of FISA. That's a fact. A federal judge admitted that. And yet not a single FBI agent has gone to jail for deprivation of rights under color of law. So I feel that basically that central bank digital currency would be just one more tool in their tool belt, to promote tyranny and ultimately prevent us from being able to protest and do things like truck drivers showing up and having a mass protest. If you'll remember, the other thing that happened was you had Bank of America, and I hope that none of you truckers use Bank of America, because if you do, you should switch banks. Bank of America gave up the information on everybody who was there at January 6th without even a warrant. So that should concern all of us. Any company willing to do that and collude with the government to spy on their customers without even a warrant should be shut down, as far as I'm concerned. So these are the kinds of things that we're dealing with today. And so I totally support, American people's right to protest. And that includes truck drivers and, using whatever means that they can, with nonviolent resistance, to make sure that the government is listening to them and listening to what's going on. Had I been there, I think on the Capitol grounds and been a member of Congress during the time of the January 6th thing, I would have had a very different attitude, towards what was going on. Hell, I might have even gone outside and cheered them on, And so, because obviously they were there representing, what they believed, and I think they rightfully believed that we were facing a stolen election, and you had illegal electors, that were being voted on. And the fact is that there were multiple electors from several states that they had contested electors, and yet the contested electors weren't even given the time of day. They weren't even heard. And it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that when you shut down an election count at midnight, send everybody home, and say, we're not going to continue counting until morning. But, they came in and continued counting while all the poll watchers were gone, and the numbers completely flip. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that something fishy went down. So, and I'm sorry, but there's no way in hell that Biden got more votes than Obama. No way. So that man couldn't even get a dozen people, to one of his events. If you remember, they painted those white circles around chairs and separated them by 6 feet apart. I honestly believe the only reason they came up with the 6-foot rule was so they could get away with doing that on television at his events, because nobody was showing up.
Right.
So,
he asks also, he says, Nate, also, you spoke a while last night, and I was very impressed as well about how you have very strong faith in God. He says, why did God allow him to have a voice? I'm trying to find that voice as well.
Okay, so I'm going to share with you guys something very personal. And, I realize that, those that are on the call tonight, you may or may not have the same faith as me, and I can respect that, but I can only tell you what I've experienced. And what I've experienced is that when I was 16 years old, I didn't grow up in a religious home. My parents were not churchgoers. I think they believed in God, but they didn't ever talk about God. They never read the Bible to me. They didn't, teach me. They taught me morality, but they didn't teach me morality that was based on any kind of religious background. That said, I did go to church when I was a kid in the summer. One summer, my parents sent me to vacation Bible school. And I was, I think, maybe 10 years old or something like that. And I remember learning a story of Jesus, the little felt figures on the blackboard, if any of you guys ever remember that as kids. And I think I accepted Jesus into my life at that time. But I think, honestly, I was too young to truly know what I was doing. And I certainly didn't live that way or follow any kind of religious instruction. And it wasn't until I was 16. And when I was 16, I had a very powerful encounter with God. There's just no other way to explain it. I had a guy who came and spoke at a church that I had started going to Wednesday night because they had lots of cute girls there, and I was a teenager, looking to get into some trouble, and so I had started going to this youth group because my cousin had invited me, and I remember I said, "Nah, I don't want to go to church." And she goes, "Well, they got lots of girls," and I said, "Oh, all right, I'll come check it out." And so I ended up started going there, on Wednesday nights to this youth group, and that church in particular didn't even believe in the power of the Holy Spirit. They were a church that had a doctrine that believed that after the Bible was written, there was no need for the sign gifts, things like healing and prophecy and things like that. And those things were done away with. And so that's what I was taught by them. And it never made sense to me because prior to my going to church, I had been involved in some occult type practices. I had a girlfriend that was into, witchcraft and I'd seen some things, okay? Some things that clearly, dark forces, doing powerful things. And I could not believe that if there was this dichotomy of good versus evil and God and the devil, how could the devil have power and God, be weaker than the devil? And so it just didn't make it. It just my own common sense said that's not there's no way that can be true. So I doubted these things that were being told to me by this youth pastor. Well, somebody came and spoke one night who was a youth pastor that he was a member of the youth group when he was in high school. He had gone off to the Air Force and he had become an Assemblies of God while he was there. And if you don't know what Assemblies of God are, they're a little bit they're like Pentecostal light. They believe in all the same things that Pentecostals do, and but they're a little bit more contemporary in their style of worship and that sort of thing. And but they they believe in speaking in tongues and healing and gift of healing and prophecy and those types of things. So this guy came and the youth pastor didn't know that he had converted. And so he came and he spoke about the baptism of the Holy Spirit. And something happened to me while this guy was talking. I started feeling something pounding on the inside, wanting out. And I don't know if this doctrine was 100% accurate or whatever, but he described it like this, that when you get saved, you have the Holy Spirit in you, but it's not empowered throughout your life. And that empowerment doesn't come until you're baptized in the Holy Spirit. And so I ended up that night experiencing something I couldn't explain. This guy was talking about this, and I felt something on the inside pounding, wanting its way out. And I broke down into tears, just uncontrollable weeping. And, mind you, I'm like 16 years old, trying to impress girls, crying like a baby isn't exactly, the best way to do that. But I couldn't control myself. And then the guy next to me, who's a football jock, he starts breaking down, weeping like a baby. And the guy on the left of me, who's a skater guy, who's got, he was like Mr. Popular in the group, he breaks down into tears. And so it spread throughout the room. At the end of the night, the guy came up to me and he asked, and the whole time, by the way, I was looking back at my youth pastor, and he's back there going like this, And so the guy was up there speaking, knew he was kind of in trouble. So I came up to him, I asked him, I said, he asked me if I was okay. I said, no. I said, I don't understand anything that you just said, but I know I don't want to leave here without it. And he said, well, why don't you give me your name and your number and I'll call you and we'll get together, because he knew he was kind of in trouble. And I said, no. I said, I don't want to leave without it. You don't understand. I'm not leaving here without what you talked about. And I said, I want you to pray over me because I want that. And he said to me, he kind of looked like, well, I don't know. And so he said, well, maybe we can go into the sanctuary and we can go pray in there, because it was a big, massive mega church, kind of stadium seating, and there was nobody in the sanctuary, just a little light over the baptistry. So we went in there, and he asked me if I was saved, and I said, I don't know. I said, look, I've done all kinds of sin. I don't, I haven't lived, according to the Bible. I haven't read the Bible. I accepted Jesus when I was a kid, but I don't know if it, took. And so he said, well, why don't we just pray, and go through the sinner's prayer and ask for forgiveness, and, start there. So we did. And afterwards I felt sensation that almost like I was the only way I can describe it is through visual pictures. When I was in the Army, I did a 10-kilometer road march in like 90-degree weather with, 98% humidity, and, I was carrying 60 pounds of weights in my backpack, my Alice pack. I had the Singar's radio on, and I was carrying an M60. And I remember when I took that backpack off after a 10-kilometer road march, it felt like I could float. This weird sensation, because I'd been being pressed down for so long. When I prayed that prayer and I asked for God's forgiveness, for all the sins that I had committed, I felt I had that same sensation, almost like I could float, like some heavy weight had been dropped off my shoulders. And so then the guy asked me to stand up, and he said, look, are you ready to receive the Holy Spirit? And I stood up and put out my hands, and he didn't touch me. He didn't push me over, none of that. He just prayed for me. And he prayed that God would bring his Holy Spirit to, baptize me in the Holy Spirit. And something powerful knocked me to the ground. And it felt like things were hooked into me that were getting ripped out of me. And I think it was demonic spirits, quite honestly, that had attached themselves. And, and then this peace came over me, and I felt this sensation almost like, and again, this is another visual representation, but I used to fly fish. And I remember on a hot day, one day standing in the river, and I had my waders on, and the water was flowing around me, and it was cool on my legs. And, it was a really hot day, but it was just the most peaceful experience I think I'd ever had. And it felt like that. As I was laying on the ground, I felt like almost like water flowing over me, and I could hear almost like a bubbling sound going on. And then next thing you know, my mouth's moving, but nothing's coming out. And the guy just says, "Speak, brother." And I started speaking in some other language that I didn't know. And I had no idea what I was saying, but it felt good. And the guy just said, he must have seen the confusion on my face, because I'd never heard of this, seen this, never read about it, but I experienced it. And he said, that's your prayer language, and basically I was having this experience. And something changed for me that day. I was not the same person ever again. I went to school the next day, and I had so much joy in my heart, and I was so excited for Jesus. And I literally lost every friend that I had, because I was a total Jesus freak overnight. And so that is how, the reason I share that story is because when I accepted Christ, within that first year, I had a lot of time in prayer and a lot of time of just laying it all on the line for God. And I remember saying to God once, that year of my 16th year, Lord, do with me whatever you want. I don't care. If you want me to flip hamburgers my whole life, I'm fine with that. If you want me to, go, go be, a minister, whatever you want me to do, God, I'm willing to do it. And at that moment, I meant it. And I gave over my life to God. And I said, God, I don't care. I want you to use my life however you want. And something happened in that time. Something happened in that moment. And I really do believe that is when I think God's calling came into my life. And I had I prayed every day for my family, because they weren't saved. And within a year, all of my family members were saved. And my dad was the last to get saved, and I never thought he would get saved. I mean, he was kind of one of these typical, very gruff, like to tell dirty jokes kind of guy that, um, that I just never could see ever being a religious person. And my dad changed, and he had an experience of his own. But my stepmom, I hated her guts because, I felt like, she had taken the place of my mom. And, as a kid growing up in a broken home, we had a lot of conflict, and and I hated her guts, and I was not, and the first thing that God dealt with me on was forgiving her. And she was the first one, ironically, of the family to, to rededicate her life to God. And so we became close, like in a matter of a year, and all the fighting and all of the contention that had been between us, just went away. And she started dragging me to all of these revival meetings, And mind you, I'm still at this church that doesn't believe in the Holy Spirit, and I'm really having a hard time there. I'm arguing with the youth pastor like every Wednesday, and eventually he told me I needed to leave and find another church, but I was so hurt. But I was glad that he did, because I ended up going to a much better church that was able to, help me grow. But I ended up going to this pastor, going to see this pastor evangelist in Covina, California. And his name was Danny Diaz, and he had this we went to the small little old style kind of chapel that had 2 rows of pews in a very long, narrow chapel, right? Probably 200 people could fit in there. And the house was packed that night. And I went in, and I'm sitting all the way in the back because we got there late, and I'm closest to the door. And the guy is a Latino preacher, and Pentecostal or Assemblies of God, I'm not sure, but definitely a believer in the Holy Spirit. But he was very animated and very loud, and and to be honest with you, kind of cringy for my taste. He was praise the Lord, and I'm just like, it reminded me of like some TV preachers or something, and I just was sitting there back there judging the guy, and he would be like, oh, I feel like somebody's got a problem with their eye, and somebody would come forward and he'd pray over them, they'd fall over, and and then he'd pray over somebody and speak a word of knowledge in their life, or prophesy over their life. And I wasn't believing any of it. I wasn't buying any of it. And then I heard this still small voice in my head say, don't judge a book by its cover. So I said, okay, God. And I prayed the silent prayer in my head. I just said, God, if this guy's for real, then I pray he will call me up last and prophesy over me. I don't know why I prayed that prayer, other than I think the Lord may have prompted me to do it. And sure enough, the guy kept on going for about 15 minutes, and then he, gave a benediction and kind of closed up things. And everybody gets up, and they all start shuffling out of the pews. And he goes, whoa, 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 everybody! I need you to sit back down. The Lord just spoke to me. There's one more person I need to prophesy over. I have a word. I need to speak a word into somebody's life. And he goes, you young man back there with the hat on. And I remember everything about this moment. I remember what I was wearing to every detail. It was like slow motion. And I walked up there because I knew I was going to about ready to hear something from the Lord. And this guy prophesied over my life. And he said some heavy duty things that I did not understand what it meant for 30 years, not until a couple of years ago. And he said, God's called you to be a prophet to the nations, and you're going to go before people in positions of power and authority, and you are not to be afraid. But I will put my words in your mouth, and you are to say what I tell you to say. And I thought, whoa, that's heavy, and I guess I'm going to be a minister, or I'm going to be an evangelist or a missionary. And then, and I began to experience, these intimate conversations with God, where I would pray, and occasionally, I would speak to God, and occasionally he'd speak back. And I ended up going, by the way, that was like the first of, I think, like a total of 7 times within that same year that somebody called me out and said the same thing. One of them that was, we had this guy that came from New Zealand. His name was Greg Burson, and he had a mega church out there in New Zealand, and powerful, guy who had a gift of prophecy. I mean, he prophesied some things, over nations that occurred, and I mean, just there's no way that you could predict those things, but God had spoken to him. And he came to our church and he was speaking, and he called me out, in the middle of his speaking, and he said, this young man right here, I'll bring him forward. And I came forward, and he ended up saying, God has called you to be a prophet to the nations. And, there are things that he is going to bring you through. They're going to be difficult. He's going to teach you things. He's going to show you things, but eventually he's going to prepare you and make you into the man that he wants you to be. And so that you can go before people in power and people in authority, and you can speak the words that he puts into your mouth. And I was like, whoa, now this is the second time it's happened. And then it happened again, and then it happened again, and then it happened again. And the last one that happened was really strange, because a lot of them were, at different church functions and stuff like this. But we were in Chino Hills, California. And, mind you, I'm 17 now. So this is a year after I got saved. And in Chino Hills, they're famous for having Christmas light competitions. And so people will decorate their lights, go all crazy, and try to outdo their neighbors, and it's quite the spectacle. And so people will walk down the street and go see, they'll go see the lights. And our youth group had gotten together, and we decided to go down to Chino Hills and go see the lights. And as we're walking down there was a woman standing in her driveway, and she had a microphone and hooked up to like a little speaker. And she's preaching the gospel, from her driveway. And, that's the kind of thing that it's the kind of thing that, to be honest with you, I've always kind of been like, ooh, that's kind of cringy, and, it's kind of like, I don't know if I would approach things that way, but this woman was just, basically preaching the scripture, fire and brimstone kind of preaching, and for some reason, we stopped in front and just to listen to her for a few minutes. And there was about 7 of us in the youth group there. And she puts down her microphone. She runs over. She grabs me by the arm, looks me dead in the eye, and goes, "I can see God's called you to be a prophet to the nations." And then she said a whole lot of other things I don't remember, because I think at that point I was in shock and just stunned. I think it was necessary for that kind of thing for me to experience it, because it confirmed for me. Sometimes you need those kind of powerful reminders, because it's hard to believe. It's hard to, imagine. I'm not a particularly, I would say I'm not the most righteous person I know on the face of the planet. I've had my share of sin and my share of falling short of the glory of God. And when I was in the military, I fell away from the Lord for a little bit. I became an alcoholic, and was drinking and getting in bar fights. And I was not a good person, when my year I was in Korea, stationed over there, unaccompanied tour. I had my struggles, I had my demons that I had to face. And so to imagine God using me was hard for me to imagine. But what I realized later is that sometimes God uses people despite despite their flawed character. Look at David. David had an affair, got one of his general's wives pregnant. And then, and he probably took advantage of her, right? Because he's the king. And then he sends, this guy was one of his loyal men. He sends him out into battle and then pulls back the army, so he gets killed. And God punished him for that, by the way. But yet, and David repented, and he wept, and and he repented before God. But it says that David, despite all that, he was a man after God's own heart. And that's an important thing to understand, is that, God uses flawed people oftentimes. And what he really cares about is that people are connected to him, that they are communing with him, that they are putting their faith and their trust in him, that they are giving themselves over to him. That is what God wants. So to your friend, and I know this was a very long, drawn out answer, but it's a very complicated one. If you want to know, if you want to hear God's voice, if you want to have your voice, you want to find your calling, the only advice I can give you is you got to sacrifice your life over to God. You have to basically say, Lord, I'm going to take up the cross and follow you. I am going, and that means, it does not mean that you're going to go be a minister. It does not mean that you're going to go be an evangelist or you're going to go, give up driving truck. I mean, think about that. If everybody who served the Lord gave up their profession and went and became ministers, then the only people who would be finding out about Jesus would be people who were in churches. And the fact is that you guys that are out on the road, you're out there traveling all over the road, talking to people all over the place. Maybe God's calling is for you to be a light to another truck driver that's going through a difficult time, needs a friend, who needs somebody that can help guide him, away from suicide, or guide him away from, an adulterous lifestyle, or guide him away from a bad drinking habit. We all have our sins. We all have our ways that we fall short of the glory of God. But it is our connection with one another that ultimately, I think is what true ministry is all about. And so I believe God has called me to run for office. Whether that means I get elected or not, that's up to God. I'm going to do my part, and I'm going to, I'm running as unto Him, and I am putting my 100% effort into it. And whether that prophecy meant that I'm going to be in the halls of Congress speaking, to other members, what I believe God has put in my ear to say to them, or put in my mouth to say to them, I don't know. I can't say, but I do know for certain that God told me to run. And that I have to be obedient and I have to obey. And I'm running to win. There's no doubt about it. I am putting more effort into this than I probably have, anything else, since. I mean, this is the hardest I've ever worked for no pay.
I hear you.
But
but
I would say your friend that I would recommend that you just have that time with God, have that alone time with Him, and call out to Him and say, Lord, show me what you want me to do in my life, and I will do it no matter what it is. That's the kind of dedication that He's looking for. So
he did respond back to me, and he is going to be at that Twitter space on Saturday, and he did say thank you. He said, 1 second here.
It's kind of scary sometimes to talk about these things with total strangers, but I gotta be real.
He says he thinks he says he thinks you're cool. He says he just wanted to ask that. It wasn't a big deal. Sure. He says he knows you're doing better things than he can ever hope to try.
I wouldn't
he
count
just
on
wanted to know. He said he just wanted to know how he can help. This is on Twitter. He's contacting me on Twitter.
Well, I will tell you this, that there's a scripture that talks about that God uses the weaker things to confound the strong, and the foolish things to confound the wise. God often uses people of humble origin to do amazing things. And part of the reason is because I think, those who've not, come from greatness, but came from humble origins, oftentimes are less prone to allowing those things to get go to their head. So your friend there on Twitter, I would say, don't discount what God can do in your life. He may have very great plans, in fact, for your life. But the only way to know that is to say to God, Lord, I'm ready to jump into an adventure, whatever you have for me. And so, I'll whatever you want me to do, I'll obey.
Charles is a good guy, and I believe he is in your district, sir, and he will be reaching out to you. Now, I want to switch here. I want to switch gears here, Mr. Cain, and I want to get on a topic that is this is your wheelhouse, because you are in cybersecurity. And I also want to tell you that you and Ali in Pakistan have a lot in common. He is in cybersecurity. So great minds obviously think alike. And I think he knows you're in cybersecurity. That's why he made that statement with that quote. You guys are, highly intelligent. Ali, he advises me on so many things. He's so intelligent. and he is in cybersecurity.
That's pretty
I want to talk
awesome.
to you.
That we're here having a conversation with truckers, and people from around the world might be listening. I never would even imagine that. That's pretty cool.
Sir, we have viewers all over the world. Brazil, Jamie will tell you they're watching right now. Brazil, Canada, Pakistan, India, Russia, Ukraine, Serbia. They're all watching right now. They watch all of our shows and they tune in later. You'll see the numbers will start going up. They're all watching. So you have a lot of fans. I can tell you that right now. I want to switch gears here back to cybersecurity, your wheelhouse. I've heard grumblings very recently coming out of Washington that the hot button topic this year is going to be AI, artificial intelligence, and the use of artificial intelligence in private industry, especially in the supply chain. I've been asked to go to Washington to advocate on that topic this year, and I will be doing that very soon. What is your take on that? How do you what is your position on that? Because I know that one reaches across the aisle, and it's going to be a major issue this year. The use of AI in private industry.
AI is a mixed bag. Just like anything, there's good uses for it. There's nefarious uses for it. There are great things that are going to come because of the advent of AI. And deep learning and things like that, in machine learning, but there are also terrible things that could come from it. My concern is, and I'll give you an example, biomedicine, okay, has led to some of the greatest breakthroughs in things like cancer drugs, to where they have now genetically targeted drugs that can kill cancer, in people without having to put them through, chemo and radiation. It's amazing what's being done, but there are things in biomedicine that that have been looked at, like cloning, for example, right? And when cloning first became a thing, and they cloned the first sheep, Dolly, there was a lot of people who were very concerned about cloning being used to clone human beings. Almost universally, people felt like that was a step too far, and that should never be allowed. Cloning a human being, should not be allowed. That's a step too far. It's unethical. And but they've done cloning with damn near everything else. They've done it with fruits and vegetables. They've done it with animals. They've even done gene modification in animals. I remember one of them was they genetically modified a goat so that instead of producing milk, it produced spider silk. And they did this so that they could harvest spider silk from, the udder of a goat. I mean, you're getting kind of like into Island of Dr. Moreau kind of.
Right.
The problem with, and there are things that come as a result of that can be very bad, right? So in some sense, genetically modified foods, for example, have allowed for much larger harvest of grain, and it has pretty much wiped out things like famine, in America and in many other parts of the world. On the other hand, it's also depleted genetic diversity around the world. And so now, for example, I believe the almost all bananas are genetically modified. I don't believe there are any bananas, in production, for consumption that in the industrialized world that are not modified. And God gave us a great genetic diversity for a reason, so that if there's some sort of plague or some sort of fungus or some sort of whatever, we can survive because of genetic diversity. So if so you have, if there's a famine due to some fungus that kills all of one particular type of crop, it doesn't matter. It might wipe out one species of crop, but there'll be plenty of other species that survive because of genetic diversity. So the danger in cloning is that it can lead to terrible things, possibly, the permanent loss of a of a plant or an animal or whatever, when we lose that genetic diversity. The same could be true for AI. AI has great potential to make our lives easier. We're already using AI all the time. When if you use Spotify or you use Pandora, it's using AI to find other songs that you like to listen to, based on certain songs that you thumb up, right? If you are on social media, they've got AI running in the background, because when you like something, it says, okay, so this person likes this type of content, and then it uses machine learning to identify other content that you might like, and so in a way, it's a convenience. It makes life easier. It makes it easier to find things that you're looking for. At the same time, it can also create an echo chamber in Twitter, right? Or on Facebook, where you're only seeing content that you like, and you're never faced with content that, that might challenge your opinions or your views. And this has not been a good thing, because it's isolated people from one another. It's created a greater divide. It's created greater polarization, right? AI has done great things in helping, people. They've said that AI will eventually replace computer programmers, because AI can program much better than human beings. But how many things do we discover by accident as human beings? Because somebody, made a mistake or error in their programming, while a lot of those errors lead to vulnerabilities, and I'm in cyber, and those vulnerabilities, we would have probably less of them if we employed AI more often in examining code and things like that. There are certain things that, there are certain safeguards, I guess, to having a human involved. Like, I think everybody agrees we don't want machines making decisions on where to drop bombs, right? you know, and yet, we can use augmented information, augmented, that kind of AI, not artificial intelligence, but augmented intelligence, to do things like, I remember seeing this program, and I'm going to avoid naming it just because I don't know what the level of classification is on it. But I remember seeing a program that basically could identify, basically where a bomb could drop to kill the least amount of people but take down a building. And so it was designed to help reduce collateral damage. And so that is a good use of AI, in warfare, right? But I don't want AI, basically flying a drone and putting bombs on, targets that it selects, because how do you hold the AI accountable, right?
Right.
So
right.
what we have to look at is we need stronger ethics involved in AI, AI and how it's used in society and how it's used in industry. It's important to take, that and basically put it to good use, but to make sure that we are in fact taking into consideration, those things that can happen, the unintended consequences, if you will. So that's what I'm concerned about with AI. Is I don't see in the bioethics thing. There was a massive organization of ethicists that you had an association of bioethicists that basically would look at these things and would ask those questions, and it was very vocal and very trusted as a source for politicians and policymakers, to help guide them down that road on policy, is to to protect the human race. I'm afraid that we don't have enough of that with AI, and I worry that there are decisions being made by these elitists, and quite honestly, many of these elitists like Bill Gates and the World Economic Forum, and the people surrounding that, and many of these people do not make, their standard of ethics is not based on pro humanity. They're not pro, humanity at all. If anything, they're anti humanity. And I am very concerned that that I'm not concerned. I know that they are making decisions not based without any concern for how it's going to affect the human race. They don't care because they're elitists. They think that the population's too large. They think that the population should be reduced by 2/3, and that their little 1% should rule, and everybody else that's left should be their servants. This is what these people believe. If you don't believe me, go buy. Go listen to Klaus Schwab at the World Economic Forum and listen to him when he says that in the future you will own nothing, own nothing, and you will be happy. That was literally their campaign. These people are, they are the epitome of evil, in my opinion. So I am concerned that they have way too much influence over our lawmakers right now.
I personally agree with you 10,000%. We're facing this issue right now in the supply chain. The truckers of this country, the small carriers and the independent truckers and owner operators are looked at the same way by mega corporations, mega carriers, mega brokers, these mega shippers. We're looked at the same way. And we are concerned with the onset of AI because we're already being controlled by tracking devices, ELDs. They're using all of this technology to steal money out of our pockets, to be able to find out where we all are at any given time in this country so they can use that information to lower rates. And then turn around and say, oh, it's the economy, it's this, it's that. No, they have all of the information they need in order to manipulate rates. And Jamie, are you there? Oh, we lost Jamie. Jennifer, are you there? Jennifer?
I think Jennifer left too because she had two windows open.
Right. Jamie keeps popping in and out. Chris, I don't know if you want to jump in here on this AI topic and how it relates to the supply chain and the risks to us from this AI situation and what it's going to do as far as taking more money, being used by mega brokers and mega corporations to be able to steal more money out of these loads and out of our pockets.
Yeah, I agree exactly with Nate on the whole AI deal. Like, it can be beneficial for us, but at the same time, it could do much. It could yeah.
Go ahead.
It's going to destroy us. It could destroy us.
I think Elon Musk. They are not regulating the technology that's being used right now, Nate. You know,
no, you're absolutely right. Look, Elon Musk he's warned about this. He's kind of an interesting guy because he has warned that he believes that AI will be the thing that destroys humanity. But at the same time, he's very involved in AI. But in times where he's been asked about that, that paradox, he basically talks about that he's involved because he wants to keep an eye on what's developing with it and make sure that he's knowing, what's going on with it. And I kind of do agree with him. I think that we can't keep our heads buried in the sand on this. We need to develop AI, but we need to also, and this is something that actually I will be calling for in Congress, is to, to put together a group of and I think it needs to be a group of experts that are philosophers, and their philosophy should be from the standpoint on the benefiting of humanity and not on an anti-human, basis. But we need a group of ethicists essentially to be looking at this issue and helping lawmakers to, legislate appropriately to protect the American people, to protect the industry. We don't want monopolies. I had an interesting experience in college. I took a course on human computing, and one of the papers that I had to do a paper on was about how to deal with the future of automation, and in particular with androids. And and so the project was, you had to, assuming a world where we had finally developed AI, we had developed human looking robots and stuff like that, and they were what would be the appropriate way to deal with that in a way that would be a benefit to humanity and not not destroying people's livelihoods and things like that. And so what I did was, I sat down and thought things through, and I came up with an idea that if you made it, if you had a law that said that no company, could own these robots, that only human beings could own other robots, and so, you could, because basically, if you had nothing but a bunch of robots doing all of the jobs, that would amount to violating antitrust laws, and therefore. But you could have human beings that maybe invested in a robot, or they had ownership in a robot, and that if that robot was able to do the job that, like for me, I'm a cybersecurity guy. If I had a robot that could do my job for me, efficiently, and I own that robot, I should get paid for that robot's work, and then I could spend more time on the lake. I was okay with that. And so, and I'm not saying that at all. I mean, I was a young 20-something-year-old, just thinking outside the box, but I think that's the kind of thing that like ethicists can do to help with the development of AI, is to think things through and come up with unique solutions, to allow for us to advance in this technology, because we absolutely will benefit by it, because it cuts down computing speeds, enormously. But we need to have people that are also, along as we're developing this, we need people that are also helping us to understand the implications and the unintended consequences, and thinking about those things, because these visionaries and these people are ethicists, they see things that could happen, and they can help direct things in a way that kind of keep us on the safe and narrow. It's kind of like I kind of look at AI as like the development of the nuclear bomb. Look at all the great things that have come through the development of nuclear fission, right? We've learned how to create power plants that can generate electricity without any harmful emissions and things like that. Although there's questions about what happens when a tsunami wipes out a nuclear plant, and now you have radiation poisoning the land for 100 years. So again, there are possible great uses that could come of it, and there's also major damaging things that can come of it as well. And so we have to just think about those things. If you think plastic surgery came about because you had soldiers coming back from World War I believe it was, with disfigurement that was so bad that they couldn't even be around other people, because people were shocked and in horror at the injuries that they saw, some guy missing his nose and his eyeball and half his jaw. And plastic surgery came about through Walter Reed in order to help these soldiers to be able to live a normal life. And yet look at what plastic surgery has become today. It's become something to where you get people that become addicted to it, and they look like a freak show, and living a completely unhealthy life, and people that, have learned to not accept, themselves for who they are, and, redefining beauty even. I remember, and this is kind of a funny example, but if you look at art, right, you go into any art museum and you look at, the nudes, right, of that were painted in the past, women looked very differently in the past than what we consider to be the perfect model of a woman today. And there's nothing natural about, what we, expect to see today. And so, it is that kind of thing. I don't think is a good thing, that plastic surgery has brought. It's brought a lot of vanity and a lot of, insecurity by people. And, we see these Hollywood stars that seem to never age, and then some of them have very bad plastic surgery that makes them look like cartoon figures, but that's a whole nother issue. But I'm just saying that ethics is an important part of any development of any new technology, and unfortunately, there's not enough of that going on right now.
Right, and you brought up some very good points, and those are my concerns as well, because when something that is in the hand of government is totally different than something that's in the hand of private industry. And I remember with the whole issue with the cloning back in the 90s, and the way the Clinton administration jumped into action when it came close that they were going to start trying to clone human beings. And I remember out of nowhere, it was just plastered all over the news about this sheep that they cloned, or goat or whatever, Dolly. It's funny that you would bring that up, because I remember actually sitting in front of the TV watching that one day in shock that they actually did that. And the way they jumped into action to regulate that and say, nope, that's it, not going to happen. But then they came back with the whole stem cell thing, and you know, all of that stuff. But I feel like it's the same thing with in the supply chain with all. It's like the owner operators and small carriers in this country. It's like we're test subjects. You know what I mean? They use all of this technology on us, all of these tracking devices, all of these tracking apps, ELDs, all of this stuff. And none of these things are regulated. There are no rules of the road. They sell this information to whoever they want to sell it to. We know for a fact that when they force us to sign these contracts saying that we are going to agree to use these tracking apps, we know for a fact that after we drop that load, they are still continuing to track us and know where we are anywhere in the country. Even after we've already dropped the load, submitted the paperwork, submitted the invoices, everything, they are still illegally tracking us.
Yeah, and you're right. In fact, I have found evidence that there's a lot of things that go on our phones. For example, I've actually found and caught Facebook services, for example, listening to my audio conversations, like as I talk to people, and I have the evidence of it, capturing little bits and pieces of conversations, turning on my microphone, all of that so that they can build profile on me. And that's why when you're talking to somebody about maybe a bicycle that you saw in an ad, you know, or a bicycle that you want, next thing you know, you're seeing advertisements for it because of that kind of stuff that's going on. But the problem is while most people may not care so much about that, the fact is we all know that the government, you know, colludes with, you know, them, and what happens if they ever decide to turn against the people, then they have a backdoor into all of our cell phones and everything else. So this is where ethicists, again, need to be involved in helping, you know, the legislature to properly legislate to protect our rights, our right to be free from illegal search and seizure, our right to be, you know, safe, you know, from, you know, some sort of contaminant that might, you know, destroy our water supply, or, you know, our right to be, you know, to have a freedom of movement without being spied on by the government. I mean, these things are all important issues, and it boils down to that there's not enough consideration, you know, for the ethics of any of these technologies. And so I do think that maybe that needs to become a pillar of my campaign. Will be to, you know, formulate these different groups and you know, within industry to, you know, basically look at and you know, and discuss you know, the unintended consequences of these different industries and different developments, you know, as we move into things. I'm going to have to get going here pretty soon because I have a few things that I'm going to have to knock out tonight before I hit the sack at probably the wee hours of the morning. But do you have any last questions or anything like that for me?
We're good. I don't see any more questions that come in now, but as usual, I'm sure I'm going to get people telling me I need to ask Mr. Cain a question, and what I'll do is I'll store all those questions, keep them written down, and the next time we meet, I will make sure to mention them to you. Please get with us, Mr. Cain, Jennifer, or me, or Jamie, and get us your flyers so we can get them down to the truck shows in February and March. Thank you for being here. It was a
Thank you
pleasant
for having me. And I will
Open-
definitely do that. And I will connect you. In fact, what I'll do is I'll connect you with my comms director. She's really great about, like, if getting me on the schedule. If you guys want to have me on a show, to be honest with you, I almost forgot about this because I'm terrible about putting things in my calendar. And thank God I checked my text messages and I saw the message, on there for coming on the show. Otherwise, I would have totally forgotten. So. But Jeannie, she pretty much owns my calendar for these types of things. And so I will get you in touch with her. And then that way, you guys have a show coming on, you want me to come on, then she can get it in my calendar and make sure that I'm there. And then I can also, she can get you any of that kind of printed material and stuff like that, because she helps me design a lot of the flyers and things like that.
Absolutely. We appreciate it. And you have an open invitation, Mr. Cain. You're welcome to come on anytime. We're here Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So you can come on anytime. Just pop in and you have the floor anytime. Ladies and gentlemen, everyone watching, Mr. Nate Cain for Congress, West Virginia. Visit him at www.natecain4westvirginia.com. Thank you for being here, Mr. Cain.
Yeah, absolutely. And would you do me a favor, if you would send me a link to where I can find this? Do you guys record this, I'm assuming?
Yes, sir. I will send it to you.
Yeah, if you would send me a link to it, that way I can post it up on my website in my media section.
Absolutely, sir.
And you said Monday, Wednesday, Friday. What time do you guys start this normally?
Chris makes us start sharp at 7 p.m. He does not play. He's very prompt.
7 p.m. Eastern?
7 p.m.
No.
Eastern.
8 p.m.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Eastern.
8 p.m. 8 p.m. Eastern, Mr.
Okay.
King.
And before
All right.
you take off, Nate,
Yeah.
there's something that I want to put out there that you might be interested in. So Blake's had shared a link to FMCSA with me, and it shows it actually breaks down by carrier: 1 truck, 2 truck companies, 2 to 3 truck companies, and then 3 to 11 truck companies. So, and it goes up to over 100 truck companies. So in total, I believe it was 316,000 carriers in the industry between privates and for hire for general freight. Now, 1 truck companies, 1 truck carriers is 283,000 and something. I don't remember the exact number. But that shows that, the small carriers that everybody thinks is an owner operator actually dominates the industry. Over 100 truck companies is only 5,000 carriers.
One thing that would be very helpful for me, and maybe you guys could help me with this. If I knew, if you guys knew who the people are in my district that are 1 truck companies, or even 10 truck companies and below, that would be helpful for me, because I could reach out to them and let them know who I am, here in the 2nd District of West Virginia. If you had a list like that, even, you don't have to figure out the second versus first, just if you were to send me a list like that, with those points of contact, I would absolutely reach out to them and talk to them and let them know, when I'm going to be, where basically find out if they vote. If they don't vote, get them registered to vote, and encourage them to show up on the at the primary.
Well, we were able to establish such a list. I believe Blake's does have it or has access to it. I can try to get that information to you, or Chris can try to get. Well, I know she's watching. She could probably get that information to you. We will definitely work on that for you.
That would be
Yeah.
wonderful. Yeah,
Yep.
and that the main thing is that to be able to reach out to folks and talk to them, in my district, the people that ultimately are voters. And I imagine, especially if they're a long haul trucker, it's probably important for me to get a hold of them sooner than later because if they do vote, they're probably going to be voting absentee, unless they're going to be there on election day. So those are people I need to reach out to like right away, and and make sure that they know who I am, and they know that I'm supported by your organization, and that I have their best interests in mind.
She does have the list, and she just said, that's what she said. I'll share the spreadsheet with you, Nate Cain for West Virginia.
That's wonderful. Does she have my email?
Well, let's see. I'm pretty sure she does. If she doesn't, I will give it to her. But I'm pretty sure she does. If she doesn't, I will give it to her.
Okay.
Blake's handles all of that stuff. She's very good with it as far as information is concerned. I know she has this list and she's had it for a while. I'm still trying to figure out how she got the list, but she does have it. And if she says she'll get it, yeah, very, very. I don't know what I would do without her. Very resourceful. And we will get you that list. Mr.
Thank you. I
Cain.
appreciate that.
I know you got to run. Thank you for being here. You have an open invitation. Please come back anytime. Thank you.
And God bless you
Mr.
guys.
Cain.
God
Appreciate
bless.
it, brother.
Thank you for the work that you guys do in keeping our country stocked and supplied with everything that we need.
Thank you, sir. And there you have it. Mr. Nate Cain, running for Congress. Can I tell you something? Can I say something? I mean, this is just between us here.
Sure,
I think he's going to be president one day.
Yeah.
Jamie?
Hopefully.
Yeah, I like Mr. Cain. There's a whole list of people that we're supporting that support us. Can I run down them real quick, Mike?
I wish you would. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah. Well, we got Joseph Longoni in District 17.
He
in
kept
Texas.
jumping in and out. I don't know what happened.
That's over in
Jumped
Waco. He might be on the road, brother.
Yeah.
But he supports trucker. He is a trucker, and he's running for a seat in Texas. And we need help in Texas because it seems like the ones we have in Texas are more interested in everything else other than transportation. We got Thomas Murphy down in trying to unseat old Rhino. I can't even remember that guy's name anymore, man. Who's the Rhino down there in South Carolina? Lindsey Graham. Trying to unseat Lindsey Graham. Yeah. So Thomas Murphy in South Carolina. We got Eric Stevenson up in District 13 in North Carolina. He has come out in full support of us. He's been into our spaces and he's been listening and contributing and paying attention to the problems we're having. Derek Evans also in West Virginia. America First Patriot, good guy. Chris Rose in West Virginia. Albert Harshaw in New Jersey. He has done a lot for us, and he actually put railroads on the trains on the tracks, so he understands transportation. He has done a lot for us. Who am I missing, y'all? And many more, man. I could sit here. I'm driving. I just got loaded after 8 hours and 15 minutes, so coming out of
Shane
Shane
McLeod.
Mecklin. He's already
Yeah,
seated. He's already seated. He is not
yeah,
running, but
yeah.
you
He
got
still supports it.
Jeff Andrew
Yeah,
over in New
New
Jersey.
Jersey.
You got Ed the trucker. He is a trucker, and we always going to support Mike Collins because he's been getting down for us.
Yeah.
We got a lot of people that we're supporting that's there that are speaking on truckers' behalf, but some people that we believe can get there. And that's how we can make change. We can support these people and amplify their voices, and they amplify ours. And they have agreed to go to Washington, take our problems to Washington, and work with us. They've agreed to continue doing what they do and come in spaces and speak to us and listen to our problems and come into podcasts. I'm going to be inviting them all in, try to get them all in here to speak. Uh, this is how we make change, man. We support the people who support us. We are the people, man. That's the important thing we got to understand and realize. And we need people that are the people, not the bureaucrats and the lawyers and the way our country is currently ran. If we want to change, we got to change it from the bottom up, and this is how we do it. Uh, he was great to have Nate come in. We've been supporting him for a long time. He's smart, very well spoken, and he's about doing the right thing. But I'll park it there, Mike. I'm heading up toward Dallas. I'll be home tomorrow.
Cool.
And awesome podcast here, man.
Hey, by the way, drive safe, brother. You too, Chris. Weather's bad. I know you guys probably are not in the line of fire of this storm that's heading towards everyone here on the East Coast, but we're going to get some snow up here in New York, I think tomorrow or Sunday, and I know there's a big storm, so drive safe, man.
yeah. I went
We knew
through the storm yesterday in New Mexico.
Yeah,
it sucked.
I'm coming out of McAllen, just south of San Juan, Texas. So I'm clear. I'm in the clear. I'm gonna drive a few more hours because I've been working all day and shut down and going in the morning, deliver tomorrow night, and then I'll probably take Sunday off with my family and then go right back at it Monday, y'all. Rates
I hear
are
you.
rates are decent. If you hold your ground, they're paying. This load pays me $2,000 on 534 loaded miles. One day on the truck, I just loaded it. I'll drop it tomorrow evening. Keep your rates up. Say no. Get a thick skin. Tell them no, I'm not going to do it. It's more profitable to get a good rate than to sit than to run for a cheap rate. Set longer, double your rate. It's more profitable. I don't care what anybody says. We get in the mentality. A lot of us out here, oh, I gotta go, I gotta go, I gotta go, and then it ends up costing us on the long run. There's a way to do it out here, and if anybody needs any help, y'all know we're here. All you got to do is reach out, um, and let's do this thing, man. We got the carrier up, excited about that. Got the insurance up. We're doing it. Continue to drive what we started in 23 and add more in 24. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Chris, Jennifer. I see all y'all.
Hey, Jamie, before you take off, so once I figure this out, because Mike gave me access to on the admin side. So once I figure this out, I want to start doing some podcasts on booking loads.
Whatever you need to do, brother. Just let me know. I'll be there. If at all
Yeah,
possible, I will be. I'll take time. I mean, I'm setting a lot. This week I run. I mean, everybody wants to say, you ain't done that. Blake's got all my rate cons. I've run.
yeah,
By the
she's got
time I
all of
get
mine
home,
too.
$4,750. I didn't leave until Tuesday. $4,750. I'll be home Saturday. Ain't a lot of money, but I've only run 1,400 miles all in. So I mean, that's the way you do it, man. And when times are hard, don't worry about more miles. Worry about the pay you're getting on the lesser miles because that's how you make more money. And that's important for people to realize. We're not company drivers. We're businesses, and a business is about doing the less work for the most amount of money.
Wise words, sir. Wise words. Jamie, those are some wise final thoughts, sir. Jennifer.
Yes, sir.
Oh, look, she's back.
I'm
Uh, Jennifer, you have the floor. Final words.
Um,
Word.
great space. I was able to stay for most of it. I was been gone maybe the last 20 minutes or so. I enjoyed Nate's stories, even the long-winded part. It was really good. I liked hearing more about him, so that was fun. And I think he's really a grassroots, patriot first guy running for office. So good guy to have in there, good guy to support. Um, Other than that, right now, same shit, different day. No new bad brokers, just the same ones we're dealing with, and more collections efforts. So, if anybody has invoices that they're not getting paid for, send them over. Join NOAA, www.tnooa.com.
Yes, and Chris, before we go to you really quickly, please, I just want to throw these things up here because I didn't get them up here because Nate popped in unexpectedly and we were happy to have him. So I just want to show everyone some respect and make sure I get their comments up here. Nihilus was in the house. Thank you, Nihilus, for being here. Hello and Happy New Year to you and your family.
I sent her a
Mr.
link, and she couldn't come on, but she said she'd come in next time.
Cool. Mr. Robert Peterson was here. He said, hey, hey. He also said, where's my boy John Cantera? LOL.
His wife won't
Yeah,
let him play.
Wait,
yeah,
wait,
I
wait.
was
Let's talk about John Quintero. I seen something the other day, and the double broker bounty hunter says he didn't like me because I got his nice beard. What? Where? My haters, man. Come on, John. What the hell?
John can't grow any hair, it seems like to me. He's challenged in that way. I don't. I understand the hate. This is about all I could do. But yeah, he didn't have to put it out there like that. I did see that comment. He let his feelings be known towards you, JD, and the hatred on the facial hair. John, grow up, bro. Grow up. Some
Well,
people
if he
can
grows
grow.
up, he'll be able. If he grows up, he'll be able to grow a beard, huh?
Right, right. Some people can grow facial hair and some people can't. Deal with it. So yeah, I was kind of wondering where he is too. I did
His
see
wife,
that
his
post.
wife won't let him play.
Oh no, he's in the doghouse. No, I got you.
Well, his wife gets kind of possessive over his evening time sometimes. So.
Hey, I understand. I understand. He works hard all day. But we got to do some more day shows.
Mhm.
Chris, we definitely got to look into that. We got to do some day show. I was thinking the same thing. We don't have to do this at night all the time. I wanted to do it at night because people were running during the day. I work during the day also. I'm usually booking loads or trying to get something done with some contract or some BS. But we could make time, maybe 1 or 2 days during the week, and do some day shows. What do you think about that, bro?
I like it.
Yeah, I
I
think
like
it
it.
would be good.
Yeah, just do
The
maybe
one time that we did, it really it got a lot of views, and we had a lot of people in here.
We had a full
yeah.
house.
Yeah, we
Honestly,
had a full house, and even people trying to get in, but just too full.
right. And honestly, my wife's starting to get pissed off with this nighttime stuff too, man. She needs help with the kids and stuff like that. And
So,
I've
so
been,
My,
bringing
my
this
husband,
up,
my husband's made a few comments also.
Well,
yeah,
if you're driving and you're out here working and you're driving, I do everything when I'm driving. I'm driving right now. Put my headset on, set it up, put it on my little phone stand, and here we are.
yep,
That's all you got to do.
yeah, let's do some daytime stuff next week. Maybe we'll do like, I don't know, maybe Monday and Wednesday we'll try to do a couple of day shows and leave the night stuff and just do Friday night, or something. Maybe we'll do Friday during the day. Maybe do Wednesday and Friday during the day and Monday at night. What do you think? We'll talk about it, Chris.
Oh, well,
And yeah, yeah,
we're
when
doing a
you guys are
coordination
ready.
meeting on Monday, so
Oh,
so
yeah, right. Yeah, when
Mike,
you guys
did
are
you look?
yeah, go ahead,
Oh,
Chris.
sorry, did you look into uh the issues I told you about this? because me and Jennifer tried to get something going, but it wasn't letting me start like a new show or anything.
Nah, I know what the problem is. I got someone else in there from before, and I have to get them
Yeah,
removed out of, put you in the place. I can only have two
that's what I
admins.
was saying. That's what I was right up.
So
Yeah.
I'm one, and I don't know how to remove her as an admin to put you in her place. I thought I did, but obviously I didn't. So I have to find out. Maybe Jennifer could walk me through that because I don't know how to remove her as an admin.
Or even
So
Blake, probably.
yeah,
You know, Michael,
yeah.
we
What,
got some stuff coming up. We got some stuff coming up too with Gospel Gunslinger and Truth Not Fiction Matters, Matthew. And we're
what
gonna
day?
we haven't set it up yet, but we are working on it. Uh, he does a dump every day on Rumble on the and it blew my mind that Nate brought that up earlier because we was just speaking about it earlier about the ports and how it ties into what's going on over in the Red Sea and the shipping containers and the ships coming across, the pirating and the attacking of these ships. So we're going to get together and we're going to do something on that and start working with the port workers and try to put some information. And I need to brush up on that because that's one capacity I've never worked in.
Mhm.
So I'm kind of dumb to it, but I know we got plenty of people that do know it inside and out. Maybe we can find somebody that wants to be a part of it and come in that does know the intricacies and inside of the ports. I have been
Yeah,
in the ports, but it's been very little. But it's
Richie.
something that we're neglecting a whole big portion of the trucking industry right now by not doing that. I don't know if y'all seen this week, but Prime and your mega carriers are starting to move into specialized like hopper bottoms and different capacities after they wreck general freight. So these guys in these capacities are really up in arms about Prime and these different bigger companies trying to move in on their territory. So it's something to look at and something to watch because we know when the mega carriers start coming in, they're going to drive mega carriers and mega brokers move in on the freight. They're going to drive down rates and just hurt truckers
Right.
more. So it's something we need to be aware of and something that's coming down the pike. And it's about truckers. I don't care what capacity you're under, what section of trucking you're working in. It's about truckers. It's about the men and women doing a job. And we've taken it as our responsibility to protect them people. So y'all are our people. We're truckers, man. Thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You definitely hit it right on the head, Jamie. And we will definitely be getting the information out there when we do the Truth Not Fiction and I'm sorry, what was the other one? Uh,
Uh, the other gentleman, I just met him, but he's really interesting. And his name is the Gospel Gunslinger. He is a preacher.
Gospel
Um,
Gunslinger. Yes.
he was actually run out of America, and now he's residing down in Mexico because they come after him.
Right, right.
And he's got a pretty big following. He's got a pretty big YouTube presence and does blogs and stuff on YouTube. So he's a good guy, and he's got his heart in the right place. And I was excited to meet him. That's what it's about, y'all. And people can push back and say, social media this, social media that. What we've built and what we've done, most of it has been through social media. You know, social media is a new thing, and my view on things is a little different than some others. My view is, in supporting these politicians, we're being proactive and giving it to the people and letting the people know what we're facing and what we're dealing with. Because what we've seen is when we get the word out and they hear it and we bring the receipts, then they get behind us and back us 100%. So what we're doing is crucial, if you ask me. I mean, that's how we've got our support. The letters and the phone calls to Congress and Senate and different people is what broke us out and got us to where we are today. So we continue to push and grow and bring more relevant people that's valuable to what we're doing. And everybody's valuable. I don't care if you're a one truck owner that don't ever do nothing besides listen. You're still valuable to us. You know what I mean? We encourage everybody to come up and contribute because this is for y'all. This is for you. It ain't all about us. You know, I'm out here. I'm making it. I'm doing well. Uh, not doing great, but I'm surviving. I'm paying all my bills and my everything's paid on time, and I got money if I need it. You know, I've tightened my belt just like everybody else has, and but this ain't about us. It's not about Mike Boston. It's not about Texas Trucker. It's not about Chris Pennick. It's not about Jennifer. It's about you, the people, man. That's why we're here. That's why we're doing what we're doing. Thank you, Mike.
No, thank you, man. Thank you. I don't need to be the one talking all the time, bro.
I gotta
You
go,
are.
guys. I love you.
I was just about
I
to
gotta
say
go.
that, Jennifer. I know. Yeah, I got
Sorry.
your message. I was just about to let
Sorry.
everyone know, Jennifer. You have a great weekend. We will speak
Thank you.
to you on. As usual, I'm available if you need me.
Thank you so much. Y'all have a good night.
Yep.
Night.
Yep. Jennifer had to split. She's got something going on. She was on for a long time. So, Jamie, no, man, what I was saying was thank you for being here and thank you for saying that. It needed to be said. Wise words as usual from you. And we will definitely be doing those shows with those individuals. Appreciate you setting that up. I also appreciate you setting up the Phenom thing. That was excellent. And yes, you are correct. Our mission to create the largest carrier in the United States of America is underway. We attempted last year to do that by joining everyone under one banner, but we were stopped out because of insurance reasons. But this year we are in full swing, and if you are looking to uh, uh, run under the National Owner Operators Association's authority, you absolutely can at this point. And thank you, Jamie, for saying that. Thank you for bringing that up. Mr. Albert, yeah,
I
1
want to
second
add
here.
something to what Jamie was saying. So
Yeah,
we're doing this for America. Without us, America doesn't run. We don't survive. We're doing this for everybody. It's not just the trucking industry, it's for America.
agreed, sir. Agreed. Thank you, Christopher. Once again, also, thank you for those words. You are 10,000% correct. And I totally agree. We're all in this together. And it's only whatever happens here that's good is only going to benefit this country. I mean, we're trying to protect the supply chain and make the supply chain better. And, honestly, I think it's amazing. Like, you've got Mr. Albert Hershaw here, currently running for Senate in New Jersey, who we met almost a year ago now. And people like him and others that are going to Washington to make this country stronger. And welcome to the show, Mr. Hershaw. We were just about to close it up, but since you came, you have the floor, sir. I believe Mr. Hershaw just stuck his middle finger in my face. Is he there? Oh, no, there he goes.
Right here.
Albert, what's up, brother?
Okay. So yeah, I'm running against the Bob Menendez seat here for U.S. Federal Senate, and he's right. We met a year ago. We met personally, Mike and I can tell you he's a good guy. And this is the proper fight to make. We don't need just the Transparency Act enforced, right? 49 CFR 371.3. But we also need the entire MCA reformed because it is an antiquated law and it's stuck and it has never caught up with modern technology. And there's all kinds of technology being employed that does not protect drivers or transportation, and there's not much accountability, if any, at all. Uh, I know we've been fighting, and they just levied against Surge a transparency clause, but I'm still waiting for more. I want to see if that's a placebo, and I got a feeling it is until they start leveraging it against everyone else. And I read the laws and things like that. I wrote a bill that I think we sent up, and I think Schumer and Cruz and the chairperson for the Transportation Committee saw it. There's some legacy laws that are in there, and it's under the CFR, actually, not the MCA, but the CFR, uh, for transportation via railroad, where if truck drivers took it over, it should carry over to truck drivers. So there were some legacy laws and protections in there, including bailouts. So those were some of the things we were trying to fight for as well early on. I've been working at state levels trying to get people to enforce transparency at the state level, not just the federal level, because states interfere or enforce federal laws often enough that this should be one federal law that they should be able to enforce at the same time, especially if one of these brokerages are inside one of their districts, one of their LDs. They should enforce it locally, I think, because if they're going to enforce a gun law or abortion law or not enforce immigration law, they should be able to enforce transparency law. Hey, you're in my district, you got to follow the rules. They do it with everything else. Why not this? And yeah, there's traction for that at the state level.
Let
But
me ask, can I ask you a question, Mr. Harshaw?
Fire away.
And I'm gonna put a statement and then ask you a question. And this is a major portion of what is wrong with the transportation and trucking industry today is the data and how we're captured by our data by these brokerages and companies tracking us everywhere we go. I mean, shouldn't we be able to do something to get that data protected to where they cannot track us? I mean, that's an invasion of privacy, and it allows them the ability to know where the trucks are and drive down the rates.
This is how I feel about it. I think that's a two-way street, what you're asking. I think two things. Yes, you're correct in how they're using it. I think there should be some protections against how they're using it. But I also see it as a protection for drivers because I hear a lot of stories about drivers not getting paid because they're not making the runs. Well, if it's tracked and it's digitally tracked, there's proof that the run was me. So that could be a boon for drivers as well. Depends how it's employed. I also think military sense, because I'm a veteran, I think if loads were tracked, that it would be a tool against child trafficking. It would be a tool against drug trafficking. Because if a nefarious driver goes off course or turns the thing off, something's up. Or
Fixing that would be as simple as instead of tracking my truck and my location off of my device, that they only have the ability to track the load. That way, once the load is off your truck, you do not have the tracking. Because I understand what you're saying, and I agree. It's an important tool for a company, because if I got a driver go missing, I want to be able to pull up the information and see where this driver's at and alert law enforcement in case there's a potential problem. And you're 100% correct. But the problem is it's not the carriers, the information between the driver and the carrier that's killing us. It's the information from the broker to the driver. See what I mean?
Yeah, right. And doing what I call active service is when you have the load on your truck. I think the shipper has a right to protect its load and see where it's going. But once the load's off, they shouldn't be able to track you. But while you're in service, for all the above listed reasons, I do think it needs to be monitored how it's being used. I don't think they should be able to use it to hurt you, but at the same time, it's a tool you can use against them and say, "Hey, we made the load, pay us."
So let me put this out there because I think I know what Jamie's talking about. Put the tracking into the carrier's hands. That way the brokers are out of it. we can actually give the tracking to the customer themselves.
Well,
If they want
Chris,
to track the shipping, their load. We
well,
could actually just do that through email.
well, we are currently the National Owner Operators Association. If I can just jump in here, sorry, I had to take a little vape break. Chris keeps smoking Newports in my face, so I had to go run and grab my vape. Um, the National Owner Operators Association is currently working on something just like that. We are working on a system that tracks the load and not the truck. We're working on that right now. The issue is it's expensive and it does take time. We do have something in the works, and we will be releasing it soon.
Well, don't they have tracker dots they can just put right on the load, and then it stays on the load, and then once the load's off the truck, it's gone.
Well, you see, here's the thing. It's more beneficial for all of the other parties if they can track the driver, if they can track the truck, for a number of different reasons. They're not just concerned with the load. The information that they gather by tracking the truck is worth many, many more millions to them than the security of the load. There's much, Jamie's exactly right. The ability for these mega corporations to track the truck, it creates an unlevel playing field in the negotiation process as far as loads are concerned. So the reason you're seeing loads so low is because that's one of the major reasons. Our information is being sold to many different players in the industry, and that information is being used to manipulate rates. If you know where all the trucks are, you know exactly how to manipulate the rates.
Well, let me just say something about that.
But tracking the load
at,
takes that power away from them.
Well, if you
which is what should be done.
Well, if you look at, say, a Tesla vehicle, they update. It's embedded in the computer board that's inside the car. Okay, it updates the Tesla's database like every minute. Right, they're actually collecting data every minute from every vehicle. They track every mileage, they track every location, and it constantly feeds up to Tesla, and they package and sell that. Any truck, any F-150, any Kia car or anything like that, they have a computer internally also that does the same thing to their companies. So if you have a truck and you have a computer board, it's already tracked. You're already getting tracked and having all that data supplied to the manufacturer. They're already collecting that, and they've been doing that for years.
Yeah, you're right, but the manufacturer or the dealer collecting data on your truck is a lot different than a greedy mega corporation collecting data on your truck. It's two different things, right? The manufacturer and the dealer collecting data on your truck is because they want to know what your truck is doing, how it's performing, what issues may arise with your truck. That's something totally different. A broker forcing you to download a tracking app so he can tell you that, oh yeah, we want to know what this load is. That's the reason why we want you to agree to download this app, or we're not going to give you this load, so just download the app. And you download it in good faith, and when you deliver that load, you don't even realize that after you close that app, it's still tracking you.
See, that's the thing.
It's still tracking you, and it's still sending your information back to that company, and that company is storing that data and then selling it to a third party.
See, that's the thing. Like UPS, they have a tracker box or dish, whatever you want to call it, that's attached, that goes onto the truck, and then it comes off at the end of the day, right? But their drivers aren't downloading software into their cell phone. I mean, if they're making you download to your cell phone, that's an invasion of private privacy. They shouldn't be able to do that. Now, should they be able to put a tracker dot on and track the load? Probably, I don't know. That's something we have
Once
to
again,
discuss.
once again, you're talking about company drivers, which we don't care. UPS is irrelevant. UPS, FedEx, any of these, we don't care what they do. These people get paid. They get paid a salary. They're W-2 employees. They don't own the trucks. They're company drivers. We own our trucks, and as private owners, we should have the right to say we don't want to be tracked without being told that if we don't accept tracking, we're not going to get a load.
Right, which I was making the point. Even the company drivers do not. And I'll emphasize, do not download software onto their phone because they have an attachable device that goes onto the truck instead.
Right. Well, that may be the case. But as a private company, if I am regulated by a government agency and that government agency isn't requiring me to download an app in order to facilitate trade, then why are they requiring me to do that?
I agree with that.
And it's some sort of restraint of trade if you're telling me you're not going to do business with me because I'm not going to agree to, I don't want to agree to have this tracking app on my phone that is going to continue to track me even though I don't want it to after I deliver this load and you and I are no longer doing business. These are short-term contracts. These contracts last from the point to when I pick up this load and then I deliver that load. We have no more business, homie.
Right, and like I said before,
are you continuing to track my whereabouts on my phone?
Right, and I already said I don't like the cell phone portion of it.
Someone else.
Yeah, and like I said before, I do not like the cell phone portion of it, but I do. But as far as the tracker doc goes for the product itself, yeah, a lot of places track the product. So, but that's removable and temporary.
You know what? We have many issues with this situation, and we started talking about it with certain congressmen and senators last year. We were kind of caught up in transparency, but this is going to be one of the issues that we're going to be focusing on as well this year. I've never approved of it. I've never liked it. I've never thought it was right. And we found out late last year from other outside parties that the extent of this, most people don't even know. Many people, I'm sure many owner operators and small carriers have no idea what these companies are doing with their information and how they're making millions of dollars selling it to third parties.
Well, the problem with using the cell phones is they can know where you live or when you're home and stuff like that, and that I don't like.
Exactly. That's exactly what they're using. Chris can tell you. The other day he questioned a company. He said to them, "Why is it that every time I am in this one specific area, you call me to tell me you have a load? But whenever I'm somewhere else, I never hear from you. But for some reason, whenever I'm in this one specific area, I get a phone call from you about a load." That is because they are tracking it, right? Isn't that what happened, Chris?
Yeah, it wasn't exactly just one area. It's just wherever they have freight in that area is the only time they ever contacted me.
And why? What is that? That's creepy to say the least.
Yeah,
That's
it's
creepy
because they're
to say the
tracking
least.
you.
Chris, they know when you're in the bathroom, bro. If you take your phone in the bathroom, they know when you're in there. If you whatever you do, they know.
Yeah.
This is all legal.
I already knew it.
Anything, no one bats an eyelash. Everyone just goes on about their happy business. Why? Because it's happening to owner operators and no one cares.
Mm-hmm. I already knew it. I was just trying to get them to admit it, and they wouldn't. They
don't have to. We already know. We have the data. They don't have to. We already know. We have the data. I've seen it with my own eyes. I've seen your data come in, and I've seen it go out. and I've seen where it went. I've seen it.
See, I don't know why they just don't put the tracker dot on the pallet itself and let it live with the pallet. And when the pallet's off, the tracker dot's still on the pallet. They know this way. They know when the pallet got picked up, and they know when it got dropped off. They know where it was picked up. They know where it was dropped off. But you guys are invisible the rest of the time.
The thing is that they think, and I don't want to go another direction with this. They think, I'm not even gonna go any further with it. What I will say is that it is wrong, and that we do have the information. We have seen it in real time, and it should be addressed. That's what I'll say. And hopefully, when we get people like Albert Hershaw in Congress, we will be able to, and people like Mr. Cain and Mr. Langoni and others into Congress. Hopefully, we'll be able to get some justice as far as this is concerned. Albert is.
Let me just say and add to that, because I've been talking with a bunch of people running for offices, for the high offices across the country. And we do want to get everybody sat down in a room once we're elected and physically reform this MCA with all the interested parties there and just hash this out over a week or two, or however long it takes until we have a new bill ready for final right, and then get that passed. Because because nothing's going to get fixed until it's rewritten, and nothing's going to get fixed until transparency is enforced. It just has to happen.
Agreed. And Albert, to your point, and what something you did. You knocked out some information that we did take to Washington, and they did hear it, and they were ready to act on it. We know that you do your thing, and you know what you're talking about. Albert was able to identify, I believe. And you can correct me if I'm wrong here, Albert. I believe it was $40 million to help the victims of the what's the name of this crap company? Surge. Yeah, to help the victims of the Surge bankruptcy. Albert sprung into action when he heard about it, and he found some information for some. That was for something from a piece of legislation that no one knew about that was sitting there that created a fund for that could be used for a bailout for truckers. And we asked for, I believe it was, I don't remember the number. I think it was $40 million. We approached it.
And actually came from the 1935 MCA, and they carried it through with the 1980, and it was a legacy, and it had dealt with trucks taking over railroad freight when the railroads failed, and it was a legacy carryover.
Yeah, it was crazy. I think, that was back in, I believe it was August, and it was like the end of August, and I took a shot. I ran it past our people in Washington. They did their research. They said, yeah, this looks like it would work, and we took a shot, and we brought it to Ted Cruz's people, and they pushed back a little bit, and then in the meeting they said, yeah, you're right, we can probably come up with 40 million, or I think their number was like 20 million or something like that for to help the victims of surge transportation. But their whole thing was they were dealing with the yellow issue, and that kept dominating the conversation. And we needed to follow up with them. But then I think a couple of weeks later we were in Washington physically, and we were dealing with some other issues, and then the transparency thing came up. So we're NOAA, we're not OIDA, so we don't have the team to focus on issues at one time.
Bill revisited.
I'm sorry, Albert.
I would like to see that bill revisited.
Yes, I do have it. I have it in my computer here, so I can definitely shoot it back to you. Yeah, we did bring it, and we did they did agree. That they did agree. They said, "Yeah, we can do this." So
And
that
you know
was
what else? That transportation committee, they get a
Mhm.
stipend of $3 million every year, whether they make a meeting or not. They're still funded, and that money keeps building.
Albert, you know your stuff. I will never, I will never argue that point, Albert. That's why we love you, man. You know your stuff, and we wish you Godspeed in your campaign. We hope you win that seat in the Senate, Bob Menendez's seat, which he will soon be vacating, and. We need
Actually,
more people like you in Congress.
honestly, I do not want him to vacate it, because if he does, Governor Murphy will install his wife, Lana Murphy. And that would be worse.
Worse than Menendez? Oh boy.
Yeah.
Matt Dahl is watching. Hey Matt, how you doing? Happy New Year, brother. I haven't talked to you since we came into the new year. Happy New Year. We've been on now for 3.5 hours, and I have to walk my dogs. They're flipping out there. Albert, I don't know why you showed up so late again, but I'd like to get you on here a little earlier next time. If you can come back Monday, I'd appreciate it, brother.
What time?
You think that's possible? You think you can come? Oh, what time?
Yes, sir.
Chris, what time are we going to do this Monday? You want to do regular time on Monday, and then Wednesday and Friday try to do a day shows? You want to do 8 p.m. on Monday, and then day in?
Well, don't you have the alliance meetings on Monday night?
Yeah, I'm not gonna do that for like 10 hours. The alliance meeting I'll do for 30 minutes. We don't need to have an hour-long meeting with that. I don't need to be there. Other people from the association are representing us there as well, so I don't need to be there for the whole meeting.
Okay.
We can do 8 p.m.
Well, I know
8 p.m.
there was a few times that we missed it just because you were in that alliance meeting.
I know I lose track of time sometimes, but lately I've been keeping track. I leave it to 30 minutes unless it's something gravely important. So I can do 8 p.m. on Monday if you're good with that.
Yeah, that's fine.
So Albert, can you do 8 p.m.?
Yes, I can.
8 p.m. on Monday. It is a date. Thank you everyone for being here. Chris, are you good? Can I close the show down, or you got some more?
No, I was just going to say hi to Matt. And, yeah, since he popped in.
Yeah, hi Matt.
Who got speaking?
The what?
Go ahead. What was that?
What's the name of the person speaking?
That's Chris.
Hi, Chris. How you doing?
Hey,
Chris, Albert, you guys know each other.
yeah, we've talked.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So a lot of fun tonight. Thank you everyone for being here. Thank you to Mr. Nate Cain for showing up. Thank you everyone. Have a great weekend. Stay safe. Stay healthy, and we will see everyone back here on Monday. Saranara. Good night.
All right.
Night, night.